Audiobook title, Mix Audiobook Collection, the 12th of September 2023. Source, Royal Road and ScribbleHub.com. This audiobook is non-monetary use. I will not be Isacade. Truck-kun fails. Rarite, by Wanda Natamaru. One not today, Truck-kun. Defend it with your life. Is it okay to not be okay? Sometimes, I found myself asking that question. As if I wanted someone to answer yes to it. Sometimes, I thought that I was doing something wrong. The guilt ate me up from the inside out, starting from my stomach to the pit of my throat. That fear froze me in place. I sat in front of a row of recruiters, all staring at me from that long table of theirs. I didn't move from my seat, nor fidget with my hands. I just sat there, listening to their reasoning for rejection from an objective standpoint. I observed them flicking their pens, and the list of names they had gone through before finally reaching me. Luckily, I was the last one on that list. After hearing their words, I quietly stood up and packed my briefcase. After hearing the ding of the elevator, the doors slid shut and I reclined my back against the elevator wall. I felt fleeting but couldn't differentiate whether it was the elevator's motion of going down or the rejection. The tie and collar began to constrict my neck, so I fixed my tie over and over again. The cold sweat soaked my polo shirt, and I couldn't wait to take my suit off. However, I also dreaded the thought of returning home. In the lobby, my footsteps echoed throughout the airy space. The clerk clearly was eager to head home already, anxiously staring at me sauntering over to the sliding door. I didn't blame them. They must have had a family to come home to, or perhaps they wanted to destress. Crickets greeted me enthusiastically in the night. Perhaps the bugs were trying to cheer me up. At least I wanted to imagine. The cold air stung my eyes and ears, while I hurried to the last train, the station void of any people. That loneliness comforted me, even just a little, for I knew the most that I didn't wish to return home. The police box in the corner closed its lights, and the officer greeted me as the last train slowly came from the evening rails. Upon entering the train, I sighed in relief that home was at least a bit far. I spent all my time pondering, staring at my own reflection in the window. How that face of mine, once teeming with life and youth, had been reduced to eye bags and dead eyes. I cursed my youth and innocence with a scowl. The train hissed to a stop and announced its destination, a lowly block that I'd always known. And so, I began to walk. Past the highways and sidewalks, I would always count the number of buildings on the way home. It helped me distract myself from when I'd arrive. Once I walked past that convenience store, I would need to cross a bridge. Innan Bridge, I would say it had quite an ominous name. 36 people jumped from this bridge, a 10-meter drop to the road down below. Sometimes, I wondered who would be the 37th. But in fear of insulting those that actually made the jump, I chose not to do anything. After doing my 3-minute sigil for those that died, among contemplating other things, I continued on my way. I checked my phone for the first time since this morning. My mother's texts bombarded the screen, the same as I'd left it. As I browsed my phone, my home screen was void of anything other than the essential apps of Rain and other utilities. The video games I once came to enjoy were deleted a long time ago. Corey. I whirled around at the faint sound of my name. Were my ears deceiving me? I was aware that those voices from the house haunted me, but I never thought they extended to my solemn commute. However, this voice was different from my mother's, nor was it a casual call I had with my father. Eventually, I found myself standing in front of a peaceful apartment complex, with a few lights still on. I watched the moths entranced with the nearest street lamp and noted the lively sounds coming from the lush bushes. The earthy smell prompted me to sneeze, at which point I decided to take a detour. I just wanted to delay the time before I actually walked up that staircase and to waste some time. The street next to my apartment was unusually crowded with light traffic and minded the rumble of their engines whirring past me. The traffic reminded me of that rite of passage I had heard of in America. Over there, once a kid knew how to drive, they were already on the road to becoming an adult. Pun not intended. The rules of society put a constraint on our individuality and made us wear a suit and tie. I was no different, except that I considered myself lower than the average salaryman. After all, I never even got the job in the first place. I already counted 60 seconds and instinctively entered the crosswalk. But it appeared I had made a miscalculation. It was too fast for me to process. My consciousness went blurry, and I found myself flying across the pavement. I couldn't feel anything. My brain wanted to scream, but soon my body no longer responded to me. At that moment, I saw papers from my briefcase raining down from the starry sky, and littered glass shards pattering to the floor. The truck in the distance blinked its hazard lights, hypnotizing me to sleep. Corey, you shall be given a second chance. The pain jolted me awake as if I was woken up from a nightmare. Except that it wasn't. The white hospital bed embraced me tightly, and my body ached to even move. The stench of sanitizer intruded my nose, and the lights dimly brightened the room. I understood from the mere silence of the room that my mother and brother never came, nor bothered to ask about my condition. I still couldn't process the fact that I had been hit by a truck and survived. I knew that the longer I stayed here, the more my mother would be mad at me. I calmly repeated in my head, everything will be okay. But with the mental gymnastics I was doing, I was hit by a truck and everything was going to be okay? Yes, it would. Everything would be okay. I held on to that belief like it was my core philosophy. Apparently I'd been here for a few days already according to the hospital staff. That it was nothing short of a miracle how I went unscathed with minor injuries. Just a swollen leg and a sprain. Not even a cast was needed, but still my busted leg made me wince. And so I requested to be discharged from the hospital. I paid 60,000 yen for staying 3 nights. The brisk morning was marked by the sun, as the light began to warm my body. Using a single crutch, I hobbled my way back. I was forced to go back home since I couldn't go anywhere in my current condition. In the back of my mind, I prepared myself for what awaited me there. Once I reached the apartment complex, I went up the staircase and stood in front of the door. I spent a couple of minutes fishing for my keys before I managed to unlock the door. I said the usual. I'm home. No one acknowledged my existence. They must be busy, I concluded. I stepped into the Genkan and took off my shoes. Corey, what are you doing? My lips quivered at the voice my ears dreaded. I glanced up to see my mother watching me from the kitchen. I had to say something. Mom, well? What happened to your job interview? I didn't get the job. I yanked the cold, hard truth from my mouth. And that was enough for her. Again? You're almost 22, Corey. Do you realize how much money your father and I paid for your university? Only for you to remain unemployed. I saw her face tense up in anger as she slammed her hand on the table. Honestly, it was better to look down at her feet than to look at her face. I agreed wholeheartedly with what she yelled at me. It was my fault. My parents paid for my tuition, but I had yet to get a job. It better not be because you've been staying in your room, playing video games. Or were you injured because you were playing those stupid games while crossing the street? I wanted to scream, to lash out, to make her understand the pain I was feeling. But instead, I just hung my head and limped past her in silence. I knew I couldn't simply make people understand, and such actions often never made people understand. I went down the tiny hall on the right and busted open the door. My desk was empty, only a few papers scattered around. My briefcase contained my name and address, so I knew it would be returned in a few days. Those things that my mother blamed, I had already sold my laptop and any games along with it since I graduated from university. Those figures I'd once kept as a symbol of my youth, I sold them to help pay for the apartment's rent. A hand covered my mouth. That feeling of anxiousness welled up from my stomach and lit my throat on fire. I kept telling myself everything would be okay. My father's voice echoed inside my head, reminding me of that same line I'd learned to tell myself. Soon after I felt the walls would come tumbling down, that feeling of anxiety flushed away. Something was off. I glanced around my room, staring at the emptiness that promised me hope. I slowly stood up, wincing from my screaming leg, and hobbled to the door. I leaned against it with my weight and turned the doorknob. The door hissed open as it blasted me with sunlight. What I saw before me was something I'd never seen before. I collapsed to the ground to find myself on top of a gravel pathway. I turned my head up to see a clear blue sky. Mountains of trees surrounded me in this sudden forest, and the chirping birds did nothing to answer my confusion. What? The calm wind blew through my hair as I got back onto my feet again. Pain in my leg intensified and I could barely walk a few steps before falling down again. This time I scraped more of my arms to break my fall as blood stained the jagged gravel. I looked behind me. My room's door that I had just opened was still there, unfitting in this sensational environment. It was still open, contrasting the sway of the trees and the sunny sky. I could still see my empty room through the door. I got up once again and prepared to close it. Until it came to my mind that if I did close it, would I be trapped in this strange place forever? I found a large rock nearby and wedged it into the sill. That way, it was still ajar and I could hopefully use it to return back. For now, my curiosity had gotten the best of me. In this unfamiliar place, I wandered off into the forest. It reminded me of the forests back home. I questioned when was the last time I'd taken a walk in nature, back when I still lived with my father. He always said to me that nature had a power that we couldn't understand, and we as humans should strive to understand and appreciate the tiny things we saw in that forest. I thought I should do the same here, look at the strange insects I'd never seen before, some playing with a piece of worm or something, or bask myself in the sunlight that beamed through the tree's branches. I inspected the weeds battling for survival on the ground and touched weird mushrooms with a twig. It was only a few minutes of walking through the thicket until I heard the sounds of a voice. My heart rate skyrocketed as I glanced around at where it came from. More voices entered my ear. Could these be adventurers? Could this place be the hunting grounds of some local villagers nearby? I dove behind a tree, my leg giving in, and collapsed to the soil. Soon enough, I took a peek and spotted two people leisurely walking in the forest. I couldn't hear their conversation, but I did hear the rattle of weapons. It would be brainless to walk up to them since I did not know who if there were some bandits scouting the area. Suddenly the realization came to me that I shouldn't be here. What was I doing in this parallel world? My legs were then programmed to stand and run in the opposite direction of the two people. I didn't notice whether they had noticed me, but just ran as fast as my injured leg could take me. My lungs wheezed as my breath complained, the hinges of my knees riveting to the sudden stop of my motion. When I lifted my head, I found myself back where the door was. I inched myself closer to find the rock I put in the sill holding firm. I sighed before my shoulders perked up to the sound of growling. I didn't bother to turn around. Rather, my fear held me in place, as if a hammer nailed my feet to the ground. Instead my head jolted around to see an animaloid creature. Within my peripheral the four-legged, three-horned animal snobbled at my presence. I found the courage to slowly turn around, ignoring the warning signals my heart jabbed at me. An image of the truck flashed into my mind. My body flew yet again several meters, but this time I managed to block my face. Blood dripped down my arms, and they panged in immediate pain. I could barely stand up again, my leg becoming freshly stained with crimson. I could die. I didn't know what this animal was, but I knew that I could die. And I didn't want to close my eyes just yet. I picked up a fist-sized stone from the ground. The creature rumbled yet again, prodding the dirt with a hoof. I blinked and the animal closed the distance between us. Gripping the rock in my hand I chucked it several strides as hard as I could. The rock whirled past the creature and it rammed into me. However, since it dodged, its tackle didn't falter me to the ground. A fist went into its eye. It arched over, stuttering around. I took my chance and bolted for the door. But the Sankakuju, as I now called it, regained composure and ran at me once again. It headed directly towards the door. Crap, if it destroyed the door, what would happen? Would it go through into my room? Or demolish it entirely? I couldn't afford to find out. I reached the door just in time to see the Sankakuju charging at it with full force. My hands picked up the rock I had used to wedge the door open and chucked it with all my strength, hitting the creature square in the head. It stumbled back, dazed for a moment, giving me the opportunity to slip through the door and into my room. Breathing heavily, I turned around and slammed the door shut, locking it securely. I limped over to my bed and sat down, my heart pounding in my chest. I looked around my room, which now seemed like a sanctuary compared to the unknown world outside my door. However, I knew that I couldn't stay here forever. That Sankakuja needed to be dealt with. I sat there for a while, lost in thought, trying to piece together what had happened and how my door somehow led to that strange world. The memories of the truck accident appeared in my mind again, but they were hazy and fragmented. That voice before I crossed the street. I couldn't make sense of it all. As I pondered my next move, a scratching sound came from the door. My heart skipped a beat, and my legs cautiously brought me to the door. Through the keyhole I saw the Sankakuja still outside, pawing at the door, its 3 horns scraping against the wood. But my caution evolved into fear when 2 more came from the brush nearby. Taking a deep breath, I unlocked the door and swung the door open. I came out screaming, hollering whatever I could do. But the 3 Sankakuja were not impressed by my aggressive noises. My eyes closed. An arrow sang through the air. I forced my eyes open to see it strike one of the creatures in the head, causing it to whine and whimper. My sight darted back and forth as more arrows came from one side of the woods, as 2 of the Sankakuja retreated backward. A man appeared in front, wielding an axe that seemed taller than me. Once the remaining Sankakuja saw that its companions fled the scene, it too let out a whimper and turned around. Another person appeared from where the arrows flew, this time a woman holding a curved bow. As I stood there grounded, the man and woman helped me onto my feet, saying things I couldn't understand. Then I heard that same voice echo inside my head. If you wish to keep your life on the other side, then protect it with your life. 2. Where are my subtitles? If the door was destroyed, then there would be no second chance to return. Those words rang in my head, drowning out all the buzzing creatures in the forest. I didn't have any time to question that voice, or whether anyone else had heard it. That system announcement. I couldn't believe it. My mind was already giving out and I hadn't even spent an hour in this strange place, so I thought. Convincing myself that there was no clear answer, my lip tightened. The sun pierced through the clouds and brightened the trees. The man and woman brought me along with them, walking through a clear dirt path. A natural ambience filled my ears while the fresh sun rays stung my skin. Perspiring sweat dripped down my neck, and I gulped down my saliva. My hands jittered, not in excitement. If what that voice said was true, then I needed to go back to that door. I shouldn't be following these 2 people whom I never knew, even though they saved me. However, I hesitated to speak. After all, the man and woman were speaking a different language. I couldn't understand anything of what they were talking about in front of me, as I trailed behind them slowly. They were the ones that extended a hand to me and brought me along, but I didn't know what to do. Paranoid thoughts intruded my mind. What if they were going to sacrifice me? What were they going to do to me? At that point, I tightened my lip again and convinced myself everything would be okay. Just like my father would tell me. The man, or I should call him a taco for now, carried his axe slung around his back. He wore clothes akin to tribesmen, a red headband wrapped around his silver hair and a red scarf covering his upper torso. The woman, now I called Donna, seemed to argue with a taco about something. A taco's face remained deadpan and continued walking. If only I could understand what they were saying. Where were my subtitles? Anna turned her head and we locked eyes. Her yellowish eyes transformed into a glare and I quickly glanced down. With only one expression, I knew she didn't take a liking to me. Maybe that they were discussing. She could kill me with her bow any second. Hesitation upon hesitation, my legs couldn't bring me forward any more than a couple of strides. That voice told me, no, commanded me to guard the door. If that door was destroyed, then I wouldn't be able to return back to the original world. My feet came to a stop, digging themselves into the ground. Atoko and Honor hadn't noticed how far behind I left them. This was my chance to turn back. And just like that, I ran. For some reason, I could feel where the location of that door was. Maybe it was instinct, or that voice simply guided me to it. I kept myself moving until a thought brought me to a stop. That system announcement, it couldn't be what I was thinking about, right? I decided to try it out. I took a deep breath, staring at my hands. Properties. A few seconds later nothing happened. No profile, nothing. I looked around, checking for some sort of sheet to pop up in my peripheral or in front of me. I focused again and closed my eyes, calmly listening to the loud rustling of the bushes and plants around me. Status. I hoped that some sort of stat sheet of myself would appear before me. If it really was what I predicted, then I could defend myself from those Sankakuja that possibly roamed the area. I wished for some power, some sort of specialty that I had been given when I entered this parallel world. Perhaps this was it. Maybe I would receive overwhelming amounts of magic or a broken ability from those light novels I used to read. My eyes gleefully opened with visible enthusiasm, more than I had ever been for the past few years. There was nothing. What was I expecting? Sighing, my feet resumed my run back to the door. Abnayak. My body ended up kissing the rugged ground. A piercing ring echoed through my ears, as the sun blinded me. When my vision began to cooperate, I recognized who tackled me to the ground. Anna dug her fist into my back as she glanced all around her and reached for her bow with her other hand. Otoko followed soon after, taking out his axe again. My head turned to the side. A couple of centimeters away from me was a spear stuck in the dirt. Anna saved me from another attack again. Zuhio. Anna took her hand off me and plucked 2 arrows from her quiver. A screen appeared before her, almost hologram-like, as lists of sections and subsections arrayed in organized rows listed down before her. She lightly pressed items on the screen before loading one of her arrows. Mirzo. Anna fired one arrow and another in quick succession. They flew into the trees, flying into the bark. I almost questioned why until a scream of pain reverberated. 2 human silhouettes came stumbling from the sides as if their camouflage had been taken out. Their form fluctuated in and out, once being indistinguishable from the environment. After mere seconds the camouflage wore off. 2 men in ragged armor. They both had arrows in their shoulder and chest respectively while they limped towards the path. The rest of the ambush surrounded us. Armed with spears and swords, the vagrants grunted with a savage look. Anna and Otoko opposed them. I could only stare in awe at the events unfolding before me. A battle. Otoko swung his axe forward and planted it onto the ground. Zuhio. Another array of tables appeared before him like Anna's, his fingers sliding across the screen smooth with confidence. His red scarf played with the dangerous wind, standing back up weapon in hand. A green aura surrounded him as he dug one foot backward and the other forward. The vagrants exchanged a few words with Otoko. I couldn't understand his response except that the men lunged at him. Otoko swung his axe with a mighty force. The breeze picked up around him as cool air radiated from the swing. One of the spearmen stepped back and Otoko walked into the opening. He slashed toward a torso and sent one flying. His feet rumbled on the ground where Otoko switched into a great stance. He blocked 2 swords coming at him as their metal bashed against his. The men shoved Otoko and he retreated. Sunlight caught the glint of 2 arrows as it impacted one head and the other in the back. I lifted my head to see Anna plucking her bow above as she held me on the floor. Zuhio. I mimicked the sounds Anna and Otoko made that summoned a scream. But nothing happened. I guessed that I really wasn't meant for this. I wanted to go back to the original world. But in order to get back to that world, I placed my hands on the jagged rocks below me. There was a higher chance of being killed down here than standing. My fight was their fight. They'd protected me from the Sankakujo, and I was in their debt. I couldn't let myself be the burden. I grasped the spear next to me with a shaking hand. Fear honestly pinned me down, trying to convince myself otherwise. I'd been a burden my entire life with my mother. I'd let my older brother down with what I'd been doing with my life. My left hand pushed off the floor. System message. Weapon equipped. Faulty wooden spear. Activation cost. 2 EP. Upon activation, deal plus 5% DMG when attacking humans. After 2 uses, breaks automatically. Anna got off me fairly quick. I wheezed and reeled from her fist that dug into my back from before. My right hand gripped the spear that had nearly killed me. Truth be told, I couldn't deny how scared I was. Or how I felt when a man suddenly came my way. My arms extended outwards as my eyes shut almost instinctively. An unpleasant sound entered my ears. Before I knew it, a human was stuck on the other side of the spear I held. My lungs gasped for breath. My precognition of what it would be like to be in a fight shattered. I only watched as the spear's splinters pierced through my skin. I didn't even want to look at the man at the end of the pole. The pole slightly jerked in many directions. Fear came back to freeze me in place as I held him impaled. Soon enough the man freed himself from the edge. A taco finished him off with the end of his axe. My eyes stayed glued to the ground. Whatever I could, I avoided that gushing red that flowed like a river on the floor. I no longer heard the sound of fighting. Panting alone drowned out the sounds I didn't want to hear. I couldn't believe it. The fight ended in a blink of an eye. Everything that had happened, from me being tackled to the ground to the end, only passed 1 minute. I stood there in shock, my right hand still holding the spear I'd used to stab someone. Never again. Never again did I want to do something like this. But to my surprise, almost nobody died. A taco simply tied the rest of the bandits up before shooing them off. I couldn't think of a reason why the vagrant stopped fighting and gave up after being clearly beaten. Oh, I sign in. Daob. I shifted my glance upwards to see a taco and Honor standing before me. A taco's face reeked of worry while Honor carried a scowl. Quite the opposites. I bowed before them 45 degrees. Thank you for saving me, twice. Their expression soon gave me a confused look. As if they'd never heard me speak before. Well, I'd never spoken once since meeting them. A taco faced Honor and said some words, and she replied placing her hand on her hip. She then turned her back towards him and crossed her arms. A taco sighed and turned back to me again. I cursed his good looks, so I thought until I noticed him extending his arm out towards me and returned a bow. He spoke again, gesturing with his hands. It was then when I put it together that a taco was pointing in the direction I was heading, the way towards the door. Testing out my conclusion, I began walking. Sure enough, a taco and Honor followed after me. Two complete strangers had decided to head with me back to the door. Let alone strangers with a language barrier, and no understanding of where I came from. The Spear of Mandalore by Lightblade 23. Chapter 1. Get back to work. The familiar sense of something thrown in my direction, followed by my head dodging to the side. Walking towards my workstation, the collar around my neck and the chain clings and clangs against the metal floor. I can't say I'm smart, but so far that put me at a good enough spot to be bought. Because apparently humanity or whatever race is at the top, said screw it, let's bring back slavery. And apparently it is a thing, because it's been 5 years since I became aware of my surroundings and this guy bought me. Thank God he's into dudes because buying a little girl it's extremely creepy. Yeah. I'm going. Returning back to paying attention to repairing the circuits in the robot I meant to repair, my hands moving deftly as the final touches came done. Nights of working on how to make a robot follow a path relying on its sensors and a program. Luckily this robot is easy enough to repair because it got blasted by hear me out, a blaster bolt. As in blaster bolt, literal plasma being shot like bullets. It's not hard to repair because this robot is standard pilot robot, one of thousands that have been made and our stock of parts is endless. Now comes the hard part. At least there's no power running through this, ouch. A spark tased me. I heard laughter behind me. Which reminds me of the other part of this misery, a weird looking alien that has his mouth open that looks like a squid with human skin and 4 tentacles sprout from his face. His hands are 3 fingers and he's a major asshole. He makes sure I'm working and no breaks. Huh. That's what you get, you filth. No breaks. Now back to work. I felt anger in me rise as I stand up back on my station. It's been 5 years since I was born. Again, I assumed that all I had to do was have fun in a new life, marry rich and don't care about life, but apparently that was too much to ask. With a sigh I finish up the robot and look down at my hand that's bleeding from the zap. Connecting it to the charging center and the tablet is connected displayed, it's fully operational. Pressing the command to turn it on, It sprang to life on the table it was on. "Droid, walk that way to him for orders." The robot only nodded and walked towards Squidface. "Master, the droid is done. What is next?" I said as he walked towards the robot. Mediocre as always." The door opened as a man walking inside. I say man because he looks humanish. He has normal looking skin but his head has horns that look sharp. "Mandalorian, is my droid ready?" the man asked. "Yes, this way." I think that's the second time people call my owner Mandalorian. Maybe it's a reference to that TV show I didn't watch that had a baby Yoda. Maybe he looks like the main character, because this is the future, from the amount of tech that has gone through my hands. Man, aliens are a thing that we interact with every day, and we have tablets that are just transparent glass, and slaves are a thing. "Get out of here, you're done for the day," Squidface said as he delivered a kick to my back, not before laughing. Through gritted teeth, I stood up and made my way to the basement latch. At least there is one thing that keeps me sane during this life, is that I can sense where people and things are located as well as everything around me. It's all connected, like the plants outside are connected to the air connected to the wind, and so on. It's all connected. When I close my eyes, it's like seeing a highway of energy every time I close my eyes. It's peaceful and a way to ignore the pain from hunger. The bleeding in my hand gets healed as that energy passes through my body. I wonder if one day I'll be free, if there is more than this store out there. Am I supposed to be here and spend my life rotting in this store under these two fuckers? Will this collar with a bomb ever be removed from my neck? The answer to all those questions is easy. I don't know. My life consists of learning to build and repair droids as well as blasters from dusk till dawn. One thing is for sure, I'm sure as hell not staying in this place. I dream about killing my owner and kicking Squidface to death. Gruesome, yes, but these two deserve it. Which brings my attention to my side project, before I could do anything. The familiar sound of boots brings me out of my thoughts as the hatch that keeps me here opens. "Alright brat. I have an important meeting. So stay silent or else," he said as he pressed a button on his wrist computer, which made pain flare up as volts of electricity made me groan in pain. I can't scream or else it will be harsher. After 10 agonizing seconds of electricity running through my body stopped, left me coughing and groaning silently on the ground of this dusty basement that is just big enough for me lie down and have a lot of space to stretch and a small bathroom. The rest of the space is occupied by abandoned junk and discontinued pieces of bots and blasters. "Remember who owns you," he said again as if to prove he's superior. He just threw a bag of rations at me and a bottle of water. I groaned in pain as the bottle hit my back. As I made my way to where I sleep, a bed or what is just a small mattress. Lying down I begin to focus on healing. It helps to ease the pain. I got better a few months after discovering that I'm connected to the world. After 30 minutes of healing, my body is able to move again. I come back to my side project. Moving the mattress by making it stand on its side, I scurrying into the small place that I discovered. It's a small latch that leads to what was going to be a second basement or something else. Don't know, don't care. From this side it's just a square of metal on the ground, like a 1 meter by 1 meter that leads to a patch of dirt. The only issue is opening this hatch, or it would be if it wasn't for how I open it. All I have to do is make a suggestion to that energy that is always there to do it by itself with a little push from me. Of course, it's like telekinesis, with a flick of my wrist and the feeling of that energy forcing the lock to open. Carefully moving the hatch so it doesn't make a noise that covers the hole I made to retrieve it. Which is a bag with an old notebook that has my notes of everything I know from my previous life. I ponder as I remember the word Mandalorian. This time as I begin flipping to a few pages I find it. Mandalorian, TV show about Star Wars. Then comes everything I knew about Star Wars. Wait. Star Wars? Jedi, Sith, droids, Battlefront. Oh fuck, I got motherfucking sent to this shithole. The Force. Closing my eyes, I look at the energy around me. Are you the Force? I can't help but ask as I feel my body itself being empowered as every fiber of my being is just attuned to this energy that flickers in front of me. While my eyes are closed I'm sensing as if it's like remembering the name of a good friend that you weren't in touch after a long time. But that friend is someone so open and emotional that it celebrates you remembering their name. I can't help but smile as the world spins around me. My vision expands as I'm not just able to feel everything, but I can see my owner upstairs gambling. I could even throw him into the air. Squidface is just drinking. A little mischievous smile makes itself known on my face as I just break one leg of the chair after a request to the force. That suggestion feeling my emotions of mischief makes it easier as the chair breaks. Squidface falls to the ground as his drink ends up all over him. My laughter fills my ears. I hate being in this universe, but the force is beside me. I'm not sure if every Jedi feels this way, but this is awesome. The force is like a companion that never leaves your side and is always there to support you in everything you do. A ride or die friend. Looking closely at my companion, they feel like there is darkness and light, but balance as well. It's almost as if I can change how my friend acts depending on my actions. That got really deep. Taking a really deep breath, the force around me flows in, out, around me, stays still and moves all over the place, free of everything, yet opting to stay tied down to someone, not wanting to be alone. Opening my eyes, I freak out as I'm currently floating a meter above the ground. Shit, my body falls into the small hole. One day we'll be free, my friend. I repeated out loud what I tell to myself every night. Turning my gaze at the notebook on the ground, I begin to slowly place everything in the hole. The notebook should be safe. But as I gave a last glance the way towards the notebook, my eyes focus on the dirt. Something calls my attention through the force. It's like someone is tired from yelling at me, like it ran for days on end without water while yelling. It's calling me as if I had everything they needed. Slowly I push everything out of the way and look into the dirt, beginning to use my hands to dig into the dirt. After feeling it approach me, calling on the force to help me get it out, I begin to sweat profusely as that thing is too heavy and hard to pull. After 20 minutes of constantly pulling using the force, ever so slowly I pull that thing. It's answering. When that thought finished, that thing comes my way faster until the dirt moves by itself. Opening my eyes, not noticing I closed them, I look closely and see a crystal. It's white, almost like a diamond. Whoa, that's cool. I grab it and take it in my hand. Looking at it, it's quite big. As I close my hand, it answers through our connection as if thanking me. You're alive. I look at it closely as it answered. Hello friend. I am, I rubbed my chin. I don't know who I am. I don't remember my name. But I think you're the same as me. I feel how it hums in agreement. Well, then we're in this together. I am not good at names, as you can see, or well, feel. The crystal in my hand feels like it giggled. At least you appreciate my humor. One day you and I will be free. I can feel you want to go out into the worlds out there. Me too. I closed my eyes as held it in front of me. Then I promise. You, me and the force will be free from this place and we will do whatever we want. You in? I felt both the energy around me hum in agreement as the crystal felt happy at this promise. Looking around out of the corner of my vision, I can see a small chain that looks like a collar. It's calling via the force, clanking slowly. No, not calling. The force is actually using it to call me, pointing me that way. Answering the call, and as that happens, other things begin to call to me. Like group of friends noticing each other after a long time as they come closer. With the crystal and me being the reason they're reuniting. It begins to try and assemble each piece that came from this garbage storage room. It wants to assemble. The force is telling me to. I reluctantly accept the call this time as I have to let the crystal go. The force seizes me as I open my hands and the crystal slowly goes towards the pieces floating our way, saying to me that you'll be fine. Slowly what I think is happening takes form, but instead of taking a regular saber, it looks like a staff. I see the button that calls me. I can feel the crystal begging me to press it. Every fiber in my being tells me to do it, and I obey, surrendering to the call. Scree, the saber comes to life in my hands and opening my eyes that I didn't know I closed, only for my eyes to widen as I see a spear that has what looks like a Chinese blade at the end as its pink color fills the room. But what calls my attention is that the blade itself looks like it has stars on it. The stalks move as I move the blade from side to side, as if I can only see a piece of a painting through the blade. What was its name again? Globe or something? Oh well, Crystal is happy. The pink glow fills the room. Did it really have to be pink? What did pink even mean? Oh well. It's actually cool. Unique. From my hands it extends and makes one big curve as if it was a blade, while on the back of it has the same edge, but it makes a curve at the end. Glaive. That was the name. Looking to the other side of the light glaive, taking notice that a small spike comes out of the bottom. This is awesome. I stand up and it adjusts to my height. It's pretty big since I began to clean up and makes good exercise with the force. My connection with the glaive feels like we're one. The swings get faster. It never leaves my small hands as I begin to twirl it around me. I feel the force guide me, as well as the crystal and glaive. As I twirl it, my hands feel like someone is guiding me. I start slow. But as it slowly begins to get faster, until footsteps sound in my ears. Shit. I grab the handle and turn it off. The staff retracts itself to look like a small staff, throwing it into the hole beside the notebook. Followed by using the force to close the hatch slowly and throwing the mattress with the force. I launch myself on top of it. Brat, you're making too much noise. Master opened the hatch. I'm lying down face up. I was cleaning. TSCH. Just shut up. Let me sleep. He threw a bottle of booze at me. This time I didn't dodge. I know that if he comes down here I won't be able to move for a while. The abuse ends 30 minutes later as electricity stops running through my body. The force helps by healing me as the bottle hit my forehead, which left me bleeding. You're not eating tomorrow. I can only groan in pain as he closed the hatch that leads to the basement. He left. Red and white, they make pink. Hunt pink. With the image of the pink blade gleams in my mind as I fall asleep with a smile on my face as the recomforting prescience of force heals me. Chapter 2. The next few weeks I was able to think of a few ways to train. I mean, I am literally becoming a Jedi by myself. When the Jedi like a cult? I'd rather do whatever the hell I want. I was 5 when I came into this shop. It's been a year since I got this glaive. I need to kill both Squidface and Master. While I could have been idle, waiting, I refined my connection to the Force. Turns out it's not that hard. I mean, you just talk with it with your spirit. I've been working in repairing stuff. I keep learning more and more about the droids and blaster circuitry, noticing how volatile the small things are. I don't know how, but I know a lot of things. Aside from my notebook, I remember those nights that were fueled by coffee and determination to not fail the upcoming finals. Looking closely at the ammo clip that is empty but fits right into the blaster I just repaired, it reminds me of the crystal hiding under my bed who can turn into a power source for a really powerful blaster. It could destroy everything, but with the cheap metal of everything here wouldn't survive more than a shot, but it would also destroy crystal. Yeah, nah, not necessary to sacrifice one of my 2 friends, never. The sound of the door to the shop opening pulls my attention as Master walks in. Squidface greets him in his weird language that I can barely understand. Hey, I'm leaving for a bounty. I left work for 2 months in the back. He took out a tablet and pressed it a few times. There, you can now go into the back in the kitchen. Don't bother with finding more food. I left enough in the porridge dispenser and water so that you can eat and drink, for 2 months. The cold can't be that bad. You've survived the previous years. I nodded in response. Don't try to do shit you shouldn't. I will watch over you. If you try to escape, I will kill you. I looked at the ground and nodded. Good, now. Weg. Time to go. Squidface nodded and walked towards the door in full gear and a big backpack. We'll be back in 2 months. The door closed and locked as well as the rest of the windows, leaving me in the dim light of my prison. The light of day gone from my vision for the next 2 months. Doesn't matter, I will get out of here and I will kill you. My thoughts were filled with anger. The force felt strong. Like I can use the emotion of hate to destroy everyone, but I know it's empty. It's a power that leads to getting yourself killed faster. Ignoring it as the force now feels at peace and not worried, my determination to be free reigns supreme as I go back to work. Tonight I feel awfully cold. The covers are not enough. I can hear the metal creaking from the compression made by the cold, and I'm freezing. It's been 2 months. I hope my master didn't die because I need to kill him myself. My teeth clatter as I hug myself on my clothes that are barely clothes. He knew I could rig the food dispenser for it to give me more food, but I didn't because it meant death if he did that. He only left rations for the time he would be gone. Looking at my hands in the darkness of my room, I noticed that they're turning blue. I'm going to die. It dawned on me, but comforting thoughts came to me from the Force. You want me to focus? I received a nudge as to where to focus. Images of fire, of volcanoes. Even the light of a candle came to my mind as the final image came to me, a sun. Warmth spread around me, focusing on it more intensely, picturing a fireplace. The temperature rose again. Yes. I relaxed as warmth enveloped me. Crystal was happy at my accomplishment as it rested beside me. Thanks, friend. I realized what I did. I made the temperature rise using the Force. I need sleep. I said aloud as a small nudge came from my friend. I nodded lightly and got back to bed as the air around me kept me warm through the night. Holy Force. This is awesome. I said to myself as I lay comfortably in my bed after a good night of sleep. Taking a shower of hot water by heating it up using the same trick, which became a norm for me. Hot water is so good and the warm nights were just so great. I know I survived those cold nights by using that power. As weeks passed, I felt powerful as I looked at myself. In the shiny metal of droid, I could see my face. But my attention was called to my eyes. My skin is pale from not touching the sun outside ever. Thin pale lips but glowing purple eyes. Oh right, it does that. I mumbled as I kept working. My body and soul aches to be free, and both of my friends tell me this. When he comes back I will kill him. He's 2 weeks late. I'm sorry owner, but you're going to die soon. There is a special thing about the Force is that those images of heat were not a joke. Those were the essence of flames. It wasn't until I realized that I could summon actual fire. It was a deep red, but the color changes depending on my emotions as the color changes. I'm sure bipolar people would have a field day looking at pretty colors of flame, but it also led to a really great discovery. Its opposite, I saw frost, whichever is cool. Pun intended. Master arrived yesterday and today is the day I escape. He got sloppy yesterday and arrived drunk along with Squidface. Master came and beat me up cause he lost money because he gambled. While Squidface electrocuted me with the switch he carried. But I got healed by the Force. He on the other hand didn't change my range of motion and is probably hungover. Getting myself into the hangar, I was able to use the Force to move the fuel cells that the ship has near his room and the workshop. I was able to get all the weapons and took his blaster. It's big for me, but that won't stop me from shooting him. It took several hours, but this place is rigged to blow and go down in flames. If I die here, I fought for my freedom and both of these fuckers die today. I was able to steal his tablet that holds the commands of the collar and Squidface's control of the collar, so he won't stop me. I heard a loud groan coming from his room, as Squidface's room is blocked by crates too heavy for him to move quickly. He exited his room groaning. I feel nervous as Crystal feels ready to fight, the Force telling me to call on them anytime. He walked into the hallway holding his head. Brat, stay quiet or else I'll use you as shooting prac. He stopped as he looked closely. My glare and the smell of fuel as well as crates. His eyes narrowed as he growled at me. Making him feel anger is easy. Talking with the Force he get annoyed. Make him angry. Do you know that this means I'm killing you? He glared at me. Don't care. I turned to him and shot at him. He ducked behind the doorway to in his room, as I kept firing. My shots go everywhere but close to him. His door stays open as I rip the door off its hinges, pushing it inward hoping it stops him closer. I need you to get closer, the Force told me as I reloaded the mag. But before I could finish reloading, a warning came as I ducked back to a crate that blocked Squidface's room. Shots flew past my head. I have more fights than the highest number you can count, and a third of those I was drunk or hungover. He said as he pulled out. I can count to 1000. He chuckled. Then I've been in 1001 fights. I grumbled in annoyance. His steps grew closer and I vaulted and emptied my mag as I got back to plan B. You're good with my blaster, he said as he was close to me. I took a deep breath, focusing on the Force. Thanks, you suck, I said as I fired at him. He ducked from what that sounded like, but the blaster is now empty. It had only one mag remaining. How about I train you on being a Mandalorian and you put the blaster down? He shot back. I readied my glaive, placing it behind my back and stepped out of the cover as he smirked as he lowered his blaster and rubbed his eyes. You're out of shots. Now hand me the blaster and I will train you. You won't be a slave. He is clearly lying. The force even reassured me he's lying, and he extended his right hand at me. The crate behind me got pushed to the side. A squid faces stands behind me leaping at me. The force warned me. In a swift movement I ignited my spear and cut his hand from the elbow as my glaive went towards squid face's face. My glaive didn't stop cutting through his head and shoulder, instantly killing him. No fucking way. My owner said as he fell on his back holding his stump, walking towards him with the blade making a trail on the ground. You're a Jedi. No, I'm me. He moved to get his blaster but using the force to stop his movements as I can freely use it because Squidface is dead he won't be able to catch me off guard. What are you doing to me? He exclaimed between his teeth. You will free me. I said as I glared at him letting him go of my hold. Oh, and how will I do that? I have the master control with a click you're dead. He said as I pictured the image of fire. You will tell me where the control is and the code to free me and give me your money. I demanded from him, as I called over the tablet. You will get nothing from me. He's sweating clearly in pain but anger is only thing in his mind. That was me asking nicely, now let's try this again. I sighed and let a smirk cross my face. I was praying you would go the hard way. Yay me. I said as he tried to get up, focusing on my will to be free and my anger. It's a righteous anger. It's my greatest wish to be free. It's my goal, my dream. Sparks fly between my fingers as anger and hate flow through me. Tell Emmy the codes. He begins to groan as red lightning emanates from my fingers. I keep going. He groaned in pain but doesn't scream. What are you? You're not normal. No kid should be this smart. This he gets interrupted by another wave of lightning. That doesn't matter. Those sparks don't even hurt. He says as he literally smells like burnt meat. You think it's just these sparks? I smiled wickedly at him. I have another two options. His smirk faltered. Fire. I made a fireball in my hand. Ice. A ball of frost appeared on my other hand. I'll tell you. Please just spare me. I'm sorry. He pleaded as he's now crying. Oh no, my hand slipped. I threw a stream of fire at his legs. He began to scream instantly. My bad. I'm clumsy after all. It's just I lost money gambling. Let me fix it. This is a few months worth of work. I fired a stream of frost. He began to scream again as soon as it froze. I stomped on it breaking the leg. Don't lie or else I'll keep going, from one element to another until you die. I said as the tablet floated in front of him. Please, stop. The code is 579,804. Pressing the buttons that the force guided me to, I didn't have a name, only AZ4M. Placing the code into it, the collar fell to the floor. I walked to his room with him floating beside me. His burnt body makes him groan every time I move him too fast. Safe, where is it? He pointed to his closet, walking over to it and opened it. A remote, credits and another tablet as well, I think is something important. What's this? Spare key to my ship. Well, that thing is getting blown to shit, so it's useless. He began to cough. Help me. Or kill me. Please. He can't even stand up, so I just throw him into the hallway, securing his blaster, putting on new clothes that I had to adjust using my glaive to cut shirts and a pair of paints in order for them to fit me. His helmet is under my arm as walk over him, putting my foot on his face. His eyes are filled with tears as he cries relentlessly. Thank you. But before I turned to walk away, I buried my spear in his legs and a deep gash in his face. You deserve this, I said as I began to walk away out into the world. Kill me. Please. He begged. Alright then. I walked towards my room and got my bag, turning off my glaive and grabbing his discarded armor and shoving it on another bag for it to be sold. I walked to the door and with a fireball I ran like hell as it ignited the closest fuel cell. Burn in hell. I heard the first explosion destroying the prison that used to be my home. Now, where to? Shit, where even am I? Alpha Strike, an interstellar weapon platform's guide to cultivation, progression Sci-Fi cultivation, by Asamaru. Book 1 Lesson 57, we do what we must, when we can. Ooh off. Hey. Not so tight Ganbata yelled. In response, Zolzair yanked the leather strap on the light guardian armor a little tighter. He glared down at her, and she grinned back at him as she spoke. Stop complaining. It's got to be tight, or it'll slip when you're moving. Besides, you always talked about how you would one day wear the armor. Well, now's your chance. Ganbata muttered to himself, yeah, just never expected it would be in this kind of situation. Zolzair stood and slapped him on the back. The thick elder elk leather vest barely moved. She took a few steps back and admired her handiwork. Ganbata stared back as he took in Zolzair, already fully geared in her own armor. Technically, these were training sets from the academy, but they were functional, and many of the Guardian scouts used similar sets. Ganbata shook his head and asked the smiling young woman, why am I going again? I happen to agree with your father. This isn't the kind of thing we should get involved in. Zolzair frowned at him and crossed her arms. Because if we don't, who's going to keep you two out of trouble? You know he's a magnet for problems. Hey. I resent that Yuta called from the spot where he lay on the grass, panting. Juiten had made him run laps around the temple building in full armor to ensure he could move properly. If U2's plan didn't work, they needed to make sure they could get out of the way quickly. Ganbata's turn was next. Zolzair rolled her eyes and smirked at Ganbata. What happened to the brave Gamma who stood in front of the Beast Lord? Don't tell me you're afraid of Elit. Ganbata threw his hands out and yelled, of course I'm afraid, Zaya. This isn't a game. This isn't some story in a book. This is way beyond anything we can handle. I fought the Beast Lord because that was the only choice I had. Because it was the only way I could protect you and the others and give you a slight chance of escaping. This is different. This isn't brave, this is foolish. Why are you being so childish about this, Zaya? This isn't like you. Demanding to go along on what could be a suicide mission, arguing with your father when he's just trying to prot. I don't want his protection, Zolzair snapped back, making the young man jump. Then, in a softer voice, she continued. Or yours. I'm tired of being protected, Ganna. I'm tired of watching others die while I run away. Do you know what that's like? To see your friends and family throw away their lives and not be able to do anything about it. Zolzair looked down. Her white-knuckled hand shook, but a single tear fell to the ground as she whispered softly, I refuse to sit quietly on the cart while others die. Not again. Ganbata's heart twisted, and he reached out to the young woman. Zaya, Zolzair turned and marched away. Ganbata froze. Yuta pushed himself up from the ground with a groan and said, you know you're an idiot sometimes, right, Ganna? Ganbata lowered his hand and sighed, yeah, I know. Zolzair crouched behind one of the academy wagons. The tears had dried, but that hadn't helped her mood. Why had she snapped at Ganna like that? Or her father, for that matter? She knew they were just trying to be reasonable. That they were worried about her. She didn't need her gift to understand that. But that had only made the guilt all that much worse. He's right, you know. Zolzair flinched at the voice. She looked up to see Artemis leaning against the cart. Zolzair glared up at her. I thought you were on my side, she asked. Artemis slid down beside her and stared into the dark night sky. The darkest night was almost at its peak. They'd have to move soon, or it would be too late. After a silent moment, Artemis turned to Zolzair and said, you say that like there are sides to take. This isn't a matter of you versus them. You can both be equally right. She paused and withdrew a small dagger. On the surface, it appeared simple, little more than a carved tooth of some great beast, etched with runes, attached to an ornate black wood handle. Yet in Zolzair's scenes, the blade burned with spirit energy. It was an artifact, a powerful one at that. Artemis lovingly stroked the blade's surface, tracing the runes with her free hand. When she continued, her voice was soft. Life is rarely about who's right and who's wrong. Often, the truth lies somewhere in the middle. Not always, but enough that a leader must be able to see things from all sides. If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles, as the saying goes. That applies to all things, not just war. A leader doesn't choose the right option, they choose the best one. Sometimes, that means going against the things we believe are the right choice for the sake of others. Be it bowing our head to someone lesser, retreating from a battle at the cost of your pride or reputation. Artemis flipped the dagger into the air and caught it by the handle. Or charging headfirst into a fight you know you might not walk away from. Life is about choices, and our choices will define who we are. That doesn't mean others' choices are wrong or lesser, only that they are different people with different understandings and goals. That's what makes the world so interesting. Zolzair smirked and chuckled as she spoke. Sounds like something a priest would say. Artemis laughed, a deep, hearty laugh. I would imagine so. My mother was the one who taught me that lesson. She was always adamant that I understand others' points of view before I passed my judgment on them. A younger me thought that was foolish. Of course there was right and wrong. Good and evil. What did it matter their reason? It was only later in life that I started to really understand. She turned and looked at Zolzair with glassy eyes. One bad year. That's all it takes for a starving village to become bandits. The soldier doing his duty to one side is a pillager, and raider to the other. The wolf in the sheep pen has cubs to feed in her den. A true leader must understand why the enemy does what they do. Only then can they make the best choice in any situation. Even if it's not one they agree with. Zolzair turned away. After a moment, she asked. Then what can you do? When the best choice isn't the one you want. Left double quotation mark. Artemis stared up at the obelisk and answered. You do what you can. Zolzair frowned at the older woman, who chuckled and continued. I know, it sounds cliche, but it's the truth. Zolzair asked, does that actually help? Artemis sighed and said, sometimes? No. Bandits still need to be purged, soldiers repelled and wolves culled. Sometimes knowing the why of the matter doesn't change anything. Sometimes you're still forced to do things you'd rather not. But other times, you learn about the nobles stealing from the villages, forcing them to starve. You learn of the battles being fought because of miscommunication. Sometimes you find a new companion, grateful for saving her pup's lives. Sometimes knowing both stories changes nothing. But sometimes it can change everything. Artemis poked at a small ribbon tied into Zolzair's hair. That's pretty. My mother used to wear one like that. Zolzair pulled the braid from her helmet and played with the thin green ribbon intertwined within. It was friend's, the young woman said. Her mind drifted back to the young woman who'd braided it, Sane. The young woman had been one of the herbalists in her graduation group. Despite being the same age, Zolzair hadn't interacted with her before the trip. Oh, sure, she'd seen the woman around the village before. Slachuorka village was small enough that almost everyone knew everyone, especially the children of a similar age. But the two had different friend groups, and Sane had always been the quiet and out of the way sort, similar to you two. That had changed with the trip. The two of them had become quick friends, and Zolzair had found the girl could be quite talkative when it was something she was interested in. Mostly hair and herbs, something they both could bond over. Zolzair had never had a close female friend before, and at the time, she'd thought it would be nice to have a relationship like her mother and Yuta's had. Then the Beast Lord attacked. Sane had been hurt, badly. Nothing she or Kalik had done had helped. Zolzair had held her even as the young woman slipped away. Then, that quiet girl had asked her a favor. She remembered Zolzair bragging about the poison she was working on. It was a vile thing meant to kill living swamps. The pests could spread like weeds and were exceedingly hard to kill. They would regenerate the next year if you missed even a bit of root. The poison she was working on was still an experiment, but was designed to spread out and kill the entire thing before breaking down shortly after. Zolzair had seen the look in the girl's eyes and had felt her determination with her gift. She'd known instantly what Sane was planning and had tried everything to convince her not to. But Sane knew she was dying and wouldn't make it back to the village, regardless of whether they escaped. Instead of complaining about how unfair it was, the young woman had thanked Zolzair. Thanked her for being the only real friend she had. Thanked her for the brief moment of happiness and for weeping for her when she was gone. Nothing Zolzair or any of the other survivors said could dissuade her. Sane would not step away from this last gift she could give to one of the few people who'd ever truly been kind to the strange, quiet little girl whom no one ever paid attention. In the end, Zolzair gave in to her stubborn friend's request. In the end, it hadn't been the Beast Lord or his minions who had killed her new friend. It had been Zolzair and a small vial of poison. The gentle smile on her friend's body lying in the grass as the cart pulled away had broken something in Zolzair. It had been the final blow that shattered a heart already cracked and splintered, barely holding together, from the loss of Yuto and Gambita. When they finally made it home, and it finally sunk in that they were safe, she made a vow to herself. She'd never let a friend do the same for her again. She'd never let someone else die in her stead. Zolzair was tired of running away. It didn't matter if she had to fight the very heavens themselves. Or an army of the dead. Zolzair gripped the end of her braid tightly as tears slowly slid down her cheek. A solid thud snapped her out of her memories, and she flinched as Artemis slammed the carved tooth dagger into the side of the cart and stood. She stared down at Zolzair and spoke, "Whatever you choose to do, better make it quick. It's about time we got things rolling. Tears and regret have their place, but not on the battlefield. The only thing that belongs there is the determination to do what you must." She then turned and walked away. Zolzair stared after the woman as she disappeared into the gathered guardians, then looked at the dagger still lodged in the side of the cart. After a long moment, Zolzair stood and wiped away her tears. Artemis was right. She could feel sorry for herself or wallow in her regrets later. She had other things that needed doing now. Zolzair reached out, grabbed the hilt of the dagger, and pulled. Despite being buried half its length in the hardwood, the blade slid out as easily as if it were butter. She stared at the blade for a long moment, then pulled out her own dagger and placed it on the side of the cart before slipping the tooth dagger into the empty sheath. This time, there would be no running away. Immortal World Wanderer, Xianxia, by I Am Link. 61. Settling in Zhang Village. Shangwen Ruilin looked at the bewildered Shu Han with annoyance and snorted, "You little guy have picked up a bargain. Those fragments of golden core are worth 100 years of hard cultivation. If you refine these fragments, they should be enough to help you break through the initial peak and reach the middle stage of foundation establishment." Shu Han was stunned. He quickly sat cross-legged, examining his body's meridians and danshan. Sure enough, near his danshan, he could indeed see some golden fragments wandering. These small golden fragments made Shu Han feel an overwhelming and pure spiritual power. Shu Han quickly said, "There are fragments of senior in my body, won't it affect senior's cultivation? Shouldn't I extract them and return them to senior? If it was possible to extract and repair my golden core, I would have done it already." Shangwen Ruilin crossed her arms, not very pleased, and said, "It's not that easy to repair a shattered golden core. Kid, you better recover from your injuries quickly. I'll assist you in absorbing these fragments of golden core. The emergence of the heavenly creation fluid is not far away. If you can improve your cultivation, it will be beneficial to our mission." Shu Han nodded, sincerely saying, "I will do my best to obtain the heavenly creation fluid for the senior. That's a must. I've imparted you with secret techniques and given you fragments of golden core. If you can't get it, I'll eat you alive to compensate for the loss." Shu Han chuckled. Although Shangwen Ruilin was becoming increasingly fierce towards him, he could vaguely feel the cold distance between them gradually melting. Thus, Shu Han took out the healing spiritual medicine from his storage bag and started to repair his damaged danshan and meridians. He had not settled into meditation for a while when he was awakened by a slap from Shangwen Ruilin. Shangwen Ruilin held out her small hand in front of him and angrily said, "You're just going to eat all of it yourself? Where's my share?" Shu Han scratched his head and said, "You've eaten up all the stock in these past few days, and I haven't had time to make more. How about I give you some spirit stones? I have plenty of those. The old man in the mine gave me a bunch. Spirit stones aren't as gentle as elixirs, but they'll do. Give them here." Shu Han directly tossed a big bag of spirit stones to Shangwen Ruilin. Shangwen Ruilin, with her small body, struggled to carry the large bag of spirit stones. She said, "Kid, from now on, you must follow me everywhere. The damned girl won't give up so easily. If she comes looking and you're not by my side, I won't be able to do anything." So, he was just a meat shield. Shu Han, as you command. And so, Shu Han and Shangwen Ruilin settled down in Zhang Village, at Madame Song's house. Currently, only Madame Song and her son were living in the house, and there were no adult men in the entire village. It was said that they had all been taken to nearby snowy mountains by surrounding gangs to dig for snow lotus. So, all the farm work and household chores were left to the village women and children. The people of Zhang village were simple and honest, and Madame Song was particularly hospitable. She was especially fond of Shangwen Ruolin, always complimenting her on her beauty and even giving her snacks that she normally wouldn't even give to her own child. Even though Shangwen Ruolin had a temper, she was helpless against this enthusiastic rural woman and was neatly arranged by her. 7 days later, Shu Han had consumed all the healing elixirs, and his meridians and Danshan began to show some signs of recovery. Next, Shangwen Ruolin began assisting him in absorbing the golden core fragments. Shu Han originally couldn't refine these golden core fragments at all, but he could absorb them with Shangwen Ruolin's help. Every time he absorbed a bit of the massive golden core spiritual power, his cultivation visibly increased. However, Shu Han found it odd because he felt that there were two different breaths of spiritual power in this golden core. These two distinctly different spiritual powers fought against each other, often making Shu Han feel uncomfortable all over. But whenever he asked about this, Shangwen Ruolin would avoid the topic and even directly threaten to kick him. Shu Han thought everyone had their own secrets. Since Shangwen Ruolin didn't want to talk about it, Shu Han was tactful enough not to ask any more questions. However, during these days, Shangwen Ruolin was always with him, and only then did Shu Han realize that Shangwen Ruolin's real condition wasn't as good as he imagined. She might seem full of energy, but Shu Han knew that the more clingy she was, the worse her current situation was. Being followed by Shangwen Ruolin all day, he didn't get a chance to use a black jar to replicate medicinal materials for pill refining. The villagers joked that the pretty girl liked to stick to her brother. Shu Han retorted in his heart that she didn't like to stick to her brother, she just couldn't do without a human shield. Since he couldn't refine pills quietly by himself, Shu Han felt bad about freeloading at Madame Song's house and volunteered to take over all the fieldwork. Madame Song tried to decline several times, but she couldn't resist Shu Han's enthusiasm and let him take up the hoe and work in the field. Madame Song originally thought that Shu Han, as a scholar from the city, wouldn't know how to do farm work and was just trying to find something to do. But she didn't know that Shu Han had been delivering food and water to his parents in the field since he was very young, and he was very familiar with farm work. Coupled with years of martial arts training and a sturdy physique from the foundation establishment stage, Shu Han was even faster than several oxen combined when he worked in the fields. This stunned the women of Zhang village, and his impressive performance immediately ignited the women's enthusiasm for finding a son-in-law. Those who came to propose marriage almost broke Madame Song's threshold. There was even a madam who brought her 3-year-old daughter to Shu Han, boasting about how beautiful her daughter would be in the future, saying that she wanted to marry her daughter to Shu Han. Whenever the eligible girls in the village caught sight of Shu Han while working outside, their faces would turn red with shyness. Shu Han was dumbfounded. He was just farming, how did he become a hot commodity in the surrounding villages? The same situation happened with Shangwen Ruolin. This noble and aloof porcelain doll stunned all the boys and girls of Zhang village as soon as she appeared. Shangwen Ruolin didn't need to do anything. She just stood at the door and glanced coldly at the children, instantly becoming the de facto leader of the Zhang village children. As a result, sniffling children were lining up all day long, offering Shangwen Ruolin their treasured toys and snacks. Wherever Shangwen Ruolin went, a group of children would follow her from a distance. Her mysterious, noble, and cold aura left these children in awe. Today, while Shu Han was loosening the soil in the field, Shangwen Ruolin was idly watching from the ridges. Madame Song's son was following her from a distance, clutching a bunch of small wild chrysanthemums, his little face full of hesitation. Among all the children in Zhang village, Madame Song's son liked Shangwen Ruolin the most. Madame Song often scolded him, "My boy, Ruolin is a city girl and she's too beautiful. You can't hold on to her." However, her son wouldn't listen and always watched Shangwen Ruolin from a distance, dreaming of holding her hand and playing with mud together. Seeing Madame Song's son, Shu Han walked over with an idea in mind. He came to the boy's side. At this time, Shangwan Ruilin was still sitting on the ridge, not caring about what Shu Han was doing as long as he didn't leave her side. Shu Han said to the boy, "Boy, Ruilin doesn't like picking flowers. If you want to impress her, you have to take her to see a sea of flowers. I think the one ahead is perfect. Then you have to tell her these." The boy, with his nose running, listened blankly to Shu Han's instruction. Shu Han patted him on the shoulder, encouraging him, "Be braver. Invite her to play. Brother supports you." The boy nodded heavily. DC, Phantom Thief Kid by Sithusk. Chapter 93, Batman. In this life we cannot do great things. We can only do small things with great love. Mother Teresa. He was nearly 2 meters tall and had bulging muscles on his arms that looked bigger than a normal person's thighs. His tight black battlesuit showed off his muscular body and made it clear that he was not someone to mess with. BB Bat. Batman. Henry screamed out in shock, his face turning pale as he stuttered, and his tongue seemed to be in knots. I haven't done anything bad. I'm a law-abiding citizen." Just as he finishes speaking, the bright light suddenly dims and blinds Henry. "Tell me, where did you get this thing?" Immediately after, Batman's hoarse voice echoes from behind him. The two were so close that Henry could almost feel Batman's breath on his neck, sending shivers down his spine. Henry is scared and turns around quickly. When he does, he sees Batman holding up a picture in front of him. In the photo, there is a clear image of the Hope Diamond kept in the exhibition hall. But Batman is not pointing at the diamond or the ice block, he is pointing at the transparent box surrounding the diamond. Yes, it was the same box that Henry claimed he brought out to calm people down after an employee was rumored to have died from a curse. After seeing the photo, Henry's pupils immediately shrank, and he nervously asked, "WH? Why are you asking about this? Don't answer a question with another question." Batman's tone becomes even more aggressive, and his already hoarse and creepy voice gets even more serious. "I bought it at a grocery store randomly," Henry responded while trying to avoid the question. "Are you sure?" Batman asked coldly. "I checked all the grocery stores around your home and the exhibition hall but couldn't find any boxes similar to yours." Grabbing Henry's collar, Batman threatened, "If you don't tell the truth, I'll break your limbs and throw you into the sewers to keep you company with Killer Croc." At the same time, his massive right fist clenched tightly as if ready to hit Henry. No, please don't do that. I'll talk. Henry surrendered on the spot because he knew Batman's infamous reputation in Gotham and had no doubt at all that he would follow through on his threats. "That box was actually given to me by Penguin's men. If I didn't do as they said, they would have destroyed my exhibition center." Henry blurted it out. "The Penguin?" Batman pondered silently why Penguin would be involved in this matter. Next question. Batman kept pretending while trying to figure out what the Penguin was up to. "What's the deal with the diamond in the exhibition?" "It has been kept in the Smithsonian Museum for decades without anyone dying from its curse, but the moment it arrived in Gotham, it killed an employee at an exhibition hall who was close to it. Is it possible for such a thing to happen in this world?" Batman stared at Henry, and his sharp eyes seemed to pierce right through his heart. I really can't say. If I tell you, I'll be killed." Henry hesitated, and struggle filled his eyes. Seeing Henry beg desperately, Batman released his grip on the collar. Just as Henry thought that Batman might be showing some mercy, he suddenly lost his balance when his right foot gave him strong pulling sensations. Strangely, Henry did not fall to the ground but instead flipped over, with his head towards the ground and his feet in the air. In his view, the ground was getting farther away, and he was getting higher and higher. It was like someone had tied a rope to his foot and kept pulling him up. That's exactly what happened. As the height continued to increase, Henry instinctively began to feel fear. After about 10 seconds, Henry was hanging in the air several meters high, with a rope around his feet secured to the railing on the rooftop. Batman stood on the roof and spoke at Henry, who was hanging from a rope. "Answer my question." He crouched down and shook the rope, which made Henry feel lighter and scared at the same time. "If you don't start talking, I'll cut the rope and let you fall," Batman said calmly. No. You can't do that. You never kill anyone. Henry panicked and quickly reminded Batman. I don't want to kill, but if I accidentally slip and untie the rope, then it's just skill issues. Batman's face remained calm. So, if you don't want that to happen, tell me what I want to know. As Batman spoke, Henry felt the rope shake even more violently, as if it could break at any moment. Henry's thoughts started to waver. When seeing this, Batman untied the rope from the railing and let go of his grip, and let Henry fall towards the ground. Henry let out a terrified scream. The rope quickly pulled down due to the weight of an adult, but thankfully Batman had left a long rope at the top, so it didn't run out in such a short time. After a short moment of releasing the rope, Batman grabbed the rope again and tied it back to the railing again. At this point, Henry is completely terrified, with a pale face and sweat pouring down. Before Batman can even ask him, Henry immediately speaks up and spills all the information he knows voluntarily. Before the exhibition started, a dozen criminals from the Penguin Gang approached me and gave me a strange box. Inside the box was a stone that looked similar to a Hope Diamond. They forced me to replace the Hope Diamond in the hall with that stone. They warned me I shouldn't open the box. I don't know what that stone is, but it's definitely not a diamond or any kind of gem I recognize. But I'm sure it's a truly terrifying object. A real stone of misfortune. The employee died because he touched that stone because he opened the box at that time. I know it sounds absurd, but I swear every word is true. That stone must be sealed inside the box to contain its evil power. Henry explained everything in one breath and then begged, Batman. That's all I know. They didn't tell me any more information. They just asked you to replace the real diamond and nothing else? Batman asked with a hint of confusion. Absolutely. Henry spoke firmly. That's all they told me to do. Then where is the real Hope Diamond? Batman continues to ask. I put it in Chapter 94, The Disguise. If you win, you live. If you lose, you die. If you don't fight, you can't win. Eren Yeager, AOT. Sometime, in a quiet corner of Gotham City. Huff, it's so hot. Dean took off his bat-shaped helmet and let out a sigh of relief. His forehead was covered in beads of sweat, and his back was already soaked with sweat. He didn't just take off the helmet, he also removed the batsuit and the thick layer of silicone muscles, and the nearly 10cm soled boots. As soon as he took off all these things, Dean immediately felt several pounds lighter, as if he had come back to life. Yes, Henry didn't actually meet the real Batman earlier, he met Dean, who was in disguise. The reason for putting on a suit was because Batman's reputation in Gotham was too powerful, and he is good at doing everything. Henry told him everything simply because he was scared, which might not have happened with anyone else. Moreover, how could an elegant and classy phantom thief like him do a violent interrogations? It just wasn't right. To be honest, it wasn't easy to pretend to be Batman in this heavy outfit, and it almost suffocated him. The batsuit he was wearing wasn't made of high-tech materials, it was purely a cheap replica made of plastic and a little bit of metal. Dean started by using a flashlight to shine a bright light, then abruptly turned it off and moved behind Henry to avoid being recognized. This created the illusion that Batman appeared and disappeared in the blink of an eye. With his eyes still adjusting to the bright light, it was hard to focus on the details of the batsuit. Luckily, Dean did a good job, and Henry didn't see through his disguise, so he successfully got the information he wanted. Cough, cough, cough. Damn it, just a few words, and my throat feels so uncomfortable. Isn't Batman tired of talking like this every day? Isn't he afraid that he might lose his voice one day? Dean coughed heavily and couldn't help but complain. Never thought this would be another scheme by the Penguin Gang. He placed the fake Batman costumes parts on the ground and thought about them. Last time, it was bad enough that he hired Firefly to kill me using a dragon's egg ruby necklace as bait, and this time, he somehow managed to get the real stone of misfortune. Sure, I exposed his money laundering scam, but does he really have to go to such extremes to kill me? What grudge does he hold against me? Moreover, the one who revealed the whole story was Vicky Vale, right? I only provided some assistance. Why did Penguin have to target me instead of seeking revenge on Vicky? Dean didn't quite understand why the Penguin had such a strong hatred for him. He also couldn't understand why Vicky, out of all the reporters in Gotham, was the only one who gained the favor of all the supervillains. It was rumored that Vicky once interviewed the Joker face to face, not in a prison or Arkham, but at a crime scene full of hostages. In that situation, she had the courage to criticize the crimes committed by the Joker, and the Joker didn't even get angry. They even seemed to have a friendly conversation. As if an invisible force was mysteriously protecting Vicky. It seems I need to find a way to make the Penguin suffer a bit. He doesn't intend to let me off easily. Dean rubbed his chin and pondered. The Stone of Misfortune, maybe I can make good use of it. On the other side, Wayne Manor. Dick returned home, dragging his exhausted and mentally drained body. Welcome back, Master Richard. Alfred came out to greet him, and he asked with a half smile on his face. Did the mission go well today? Don't teasing me, Alfred. I'm sure you already know. There was a live media broadcast at Wayne Tower. Everyone will know that Phantom Thief played a huge prank on Gotham for April Fool's Day. Dick shook his head and sighed. I should have been prepared when I deciphered the date as the 1st of April. But I actually believed he would move today. I underestimated how playful Phantom Thief can be. It's intriguing to have a criminal with such a mindset. It's really hard to say if that's good or bad. Dick sighed. Well, if it's playful without anyone getting hurt, I don't think it's a bad thing. Honestly, I feel the same way as you do, Master Richard. I don't dislike Phantom Thief. Alfred chuckled. Hearing Alfred's words, Dick looked at him curiously. Master Richard, perhaps you haven't noticed, but on the day Phantom Thief committed his crime, especially during his public performance, the overall crime rate in Gotham went down. Even though there are still a lot of crimes in the city, the crime rate has dropped down. Really? Dick's face showed a surprised expression. He didn't dislike Phantom Thief simply because he felt that deep down, Phantom Thief wasn't bad and he hadn't committed any truly unforgivable crimes. But he never thought that when the Phantom Thief showed up, the crime rate in Gotham would actually go down. Yes, Master Richard. You can check all the recent crimes on the Bat computer. The overall numbers have indeed dropped. Dick still found it hard to believe. Upon careful consideration, Dick noticed that after Phantom Thief's performance, the number of criminals he encountered during his night patrol seemed to go down. Especially tonight, when Dick returned from Wayne Tower, he only encountered 3 robberies on the way, which was low compared to the usual 5 or 6. This made Dick realize something new about Phantom Thief. The next day, the 2nd of April. On this day, Dean didn't come to the Orpheus Jewelry Exhibition Center. After all, Phantom Thief's crime was scheduled for the 3rd day. Dean was just a stage magician and not a real detective, so he wouldn't be of much use if the Phantom Thief didn't show up. There was also a risk of encountering other thieves and potential danger. That's why Dick didn't ask Dean to come today. Dick and Barbara arrived at the exhibition early. Their task was different from Dean's. They were here to protect the diamond from being stolen. What did you say? As soon as Dick and Barbara entered the exhibition hall, they heard Henry angrily scolding 2 workers. He revealed some shocking information in his words. Last night, I saw both of you enter the Hope Diamond exhibition hall to perform maintenance on the equipment. But now you're telling me that you fell asleep, didn't have enough time to finish the job, and woke up at home. Henry pointed angrily at one of the maintenance workers. Then who did I see yesterday? Was it the Phantom Thief? And you? At that moment, he pointed at the other worker. I specifically assigned you and your partner to maintain the exhibition hall last night. How did Phantom Thief find out about this? And you didn't even recognize your own work partner? Chapter 95, The Hidden Setup. If it's possible for one person to be hurt by another, then it's possible for that person to be healed by another. Soma Hattori, Fruits Basket. Henry reprimanded 2 employees, who hung their heads in shame while remaining silent and embarrassed. At that moment, Barbara stepped forward and said, "Mr. Henry, our first priority should be to quickly confirm whether the diamond is safe." We all know how skilled the Phantom Thief is with his disguises. It's understandable that your employees recognize him. Dick also said, Gordon is right. Our main task should be to ensure that the Hope Diamond is still in the exhibition hall. Let's put aside the blame for now. Hearing their voices, Henry, who was angered just moments ago, was about to retort with something like, "Are you teaching me how to do my job?" But some of his anger calmed down when he turned around and saw who was talking. It was Commissioner Gordon's daughter and the adopted son of the Wayne family. Henry's expression softened and he said, Grayson, Miss Gordon, I have already checked earlier, and the Hope Diamond is still in the ice block and has not been stolen." Hearing this, Dick and Barbara exchanged glances and saw the same hint of confusion in each other's eyes. If Phantom Thief Kid disguised himself as a worker and entered the exhibition hall yesterday, why didn't he take the opportunity to steal the Hope Diamond? Henry, are you absolutely sure that the diamond in the ice block is the Hope Diamond? Is there a possibility that Phantom Thief placed it there to confuse us with a fake? Dick asked, pinching his chin. After all, the diamond is inside a translucent box with a blue tint, and it is impossible to verify its authenticity with the naked eye. You can rest assured on that point, I am very sure it is real. Henry replied without hesitation. Even the maintenance worker who previously entered the exhibition hall with the fake employees added, after we finished the maintenance work yesterday and left the exhibition hall, there was still a large amount of the ice block that hadn't melted. I'm quite sure he didn't have the time to steal the diamond back then. After that, it was other workers who were responsible for storing the diamond and freezing it back into the ice block. They were under constant surveillance the entire time and never even opened the box, let alone stole the Hope Diamond. Dick's eyebrows furrowed deeply. If what they were saying was true, then the Phantom Thief indeed did not steal the diamond. But why? Was it because he had said he was going to steal it on Easter, so he didn't plan to do it earlier and just wanted to do some observation in the exhibition hall first? Or perhaps the Phantom Thief found that the security level in the exhibition hall was too high and he didn't have a chance to make a move, so he had to temporarily retreat. Anyway, it's best to thaw the ice and thoroughly inspect the diamond. Barbara spoke up. But as soon as she finished speaking, Henry quickly intervened. No. We can't do that. Others might not know, but he was well aware of what was inside the ice. It wasn't just the Hope Diamond, but rather the real stone of misfortune. If that stone were opened to see if it was real or not, everyone there would have misfortune and meet a terrible fate. Before the exhibition ends or the Phantom Thief steals it, the stone of misfortune must absolutely remain closed. Both Dick and Barbara turned their gazes to him and asked him at the same time, why not? The exhibition is about to start. If we melt the ice block now, how can we explain it to the visitors? How can we explain it to the Smithsonian Museum? Henry quickly came up with a somewhat convincing excuse. If we don't handle it properly, the outside world may think that the diamond has already been stolen. Then, those ruthless media outlets will add fuel to the fire by saying that our exhibition hall is useless in terms of security. No one will trust this exhibition hall again. For this exhibition, I have almost exhausted all of my savings. I can't afford this loss. With a mournful expression on his face, Henry played the emotional card with Dick and Barbara. Leaving aside the fact that Phantom Thief barely had time to steal the diamond, even if he did, he would probably return it. How can you think like that? Barbara and Dick exclaimed angrily. I don't want to think that way either, but reality forces me to. There are over 100 employees in the exhibition hall who need to be paid. I have to protect the reputation of the exhibition hall. Henry talked like he couldn't do anything, and he even believed what he said. Who told you to take this gamble and take over such an important exhibition plan as Hope Diamond? If you wanted to gain fame with this plan and had no confidence in facing failure, then you shouldn't have done this business in the first place. Dick wanted to say this, but seeing the sad expression on Henry's face, he decided to hold his words back. What are you all doing here? At this moment, Kim and Lily from the Smithsonian Museum came from a distance, and Jim and Harvey were also behind. Barbara next to them explained the whole situation to several people and then said, The plan to melt the ice block and examine the diamond can be postponed, but I suggest we thoroughly search the exhibition hall. Phantom Thief is not likely to make a move on the diamond before Easter. However, he is highly likely to set up hidden traps in the exhibition hall to prepare for his plans. As Barbara said this, a flash appeared in her eyes. We've always failed to catch the Phantom Thief because we never knew when he set up traps at the crime scene. But this time, Phantom Thief has made a mistake. In Jim's view, the safest approach would be to immediately check the diamond. Once confirmed as real, they would cancel the exhibition and quickly send the diamond back to the Smithsonian Museum with Harvey. Unfortunately, the cops were only in charge of security, and Jim didn't have the authority to interfere with the exhibition's planning. Henry was firm in his position, so Jim didn't say anything else. Jim, Kim, and Harvey all agreed that the thorough search that his daughter suggested was a good idea. Even Henry couldn't find a reason to object. Only Lily, upon hearing about the thorough search of the exhibition hall, had a slight shrank in her pupils. The independent exhibition hall of the Hope Diamond was not large, and the inside search was quickly completed. The more they searched, the more surprises they found. There were actually quite a few hidden traps. The first one was the corner with a secret tunnel under the floor that led to a place nobody knew. Inside the closet where the warming coats were stored, they also found a secret compartment. Inside the compartment were gas masks, clearly meant for triggering the automatic closing of doors and the release of a hypnotic gas after setting off the alarm. Also, all the equipment in the exhibition hall had a strange part or two hidden within, which didn't disrupt the device's functions. It was almost impossible to detect any issues during regular maintenance. Audiobook title: Mix audiobook title, the 13th of September 2023. I've been reincarnated as a villainous aristocrat, so I'll live as I please by Kuro-kun. Chapter 1. You will not be rewarded for living a straight life. I believe that to be the truth. I was working as an ordinary businessman in a country called Japan. I was working for a company of a reasonable scale, and I was paid a reasonable salary. It was not a black company, but it was a hassle to have an annoying boss who was really a pain in the ass. At the time, I was fucking serious and had a sense of justice that was futile and pointless. One day, I accidentally discovered the corruption of my shitty, annoying boss. He had embezzled tens of millions of yen. Driven by a sense of justice, I told the accounting department what had happened. Of course, my intention was to get my boss out of office. But at the root of it all was a sense of doing the right thing. But I didn't know that righteousness was worthless. I didn't even realize that justice was just something I had to do for my own convenience. A sense of justice is just a way to justify oneself. And yet, he pretended to be a good person and to have a sense of justice. The company was corrupt. The accounting department and my boss were connected. And all the embezzlement was treated as if I had done it. I was forced to quit the company. I was disciplined and fired. Because of this, I could not get a new job. In desperation, I drank a lot of alcohol, and while walking on the road with a limp, I was hit by a truck and killed. It was a horrible end. Then I was reborn in another world. I was reincarnated in a nice place called Bokken. I was born as the eldest son of a count family. In other words, I was guaranteed the highest status as a nobleman. If I am reborn as an aristocrat, I will no longer be self-centered. I will stop living a straight life. I will stop being a good guy. To hell with fairness. There is no such thing in this world. I will live as I please, no matter what anyone says. I don't care what anyone says about me, as long as everything is good for me. Not for anyone else. I will live for myself. I will live as I please as a villainous aristocrat. That is what I decided. Chapter 2. My name in the world is Arknonalam. What is the Evil Master? And it's a title that makes me want to cringe. If anything, my parents are more like the evil ones. They are the so-called evil masters. They treat their people like trash, forcibly seize their livestock and land, create unfair laws and monopolize their profits, impose reckless military service on them, and levy excessive taxes on them. When the people were suffering from starvation, it seems that those people were spending lavishly to show off their wealth to the public. They took bribes as a matter of course. They were scum. My parents, who were such trashy people, died the other day. While they were hunting, a hobby of theirs, they were attacked by a monster that suddenly appeared and killed them. I tried to shed tears because my parents died, but no tears appeared at all. Maybe I had dry eyes. Incidentally, this world has fantasy elements such as monsters and magic. I like beastmen, but unfortunately, I heard that they don't needed beastmen. It was so unfortunate that I was seriously moved to tears. I was far more shocked by the lack of beastmen than by the death of my parents. I doubt that those scum were really attacked by a monster in the first place. Monsters don't appear that often. It is even possible that they were killed by someone. Well, they are scum after all. Probably, somebody must have had a grudge against them to the point of killing. They are dead, though, literally. Namu Amida Butsu. After the funeral of my parents, I needed to become a lord and rule my domain. By the way, I'm going to be the Earl Gallum from now on. I heard that Count Gallum is a noble family with a historic dog emblem. And Gallum is the name of a domain. Although I will be ruling a domain from now on, I am 8 years old. I don't have the power to rule a territory like this. So I turned to Lampard. Lampard is the chief butler who has served House Noyadama since the previous generation. He was an old man with a straight back and the face resembling a butler. The first thing I ordered him to do was to investigate all the wrongdoings. Oh, Master Ark, I never thought that a boy with such a strong sense of justice would be born from those people. It's a miracle. Lampard was saying. This is a miracle. But I had no idea what he was talking about. Of course, I have no sense of justice. I don't intend to live a straight life, so I think it's okay for me to cheat. But I will not tolerate cheating by others. I suffered from fraud in my previous life. In the first place, everything in this territory belongs to me. What I mean by cheating is taking my possessions away from me without fair compensation. That is something I will not tolerate. Lampard found evidence of fraud one after another. The evidence came out so thick and dusty that it was laughable. It's a parade of fraud. Names of many people in the mansion also came out. Seriously, this is a corrupt place. I felt sick with memory of my previous life. I ordered Lampard to take care of everything. There were people who suffered because of those scum parents. I paid them off to shut their mouths. Ha 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 ha. Money and power are all that matters in this world. The evil lord is the best. The territory was in ruins, but I don't know anything about managing a territory. I left it to Lampard. I was told that it would take a lot of money to restore the territory. Frankly, if the territory is in ruins, I'm not going to be rich. So it was necessary to restore the territory. So I sold off all the art and antiques that the scum parents had collected. Surprisingly, my parents had an eye for picking out the good stuff. Thanks to that, the amount of money they sold off was quite large. But even so, they said it wasn't enough. If money is not enough, we need to reduce expenses. I ordered Lampard to proceed with the disarmament. But Lampard was against it. The recent appearance of monsters and bandits has left our territory in ruins. If we shrink our forces here, we may find ourselves in an even worse position than we already are. If the army is only for show, we are better off without it. My parents have been expanding the army for the sake of glory. But the military is a wreck on the inside. I love the good looks, but if it's just for show, it's better not to have it. Besides, I can't spend my precious money on such a useless thing. If you get caught, it's the end of it. It's already taken a hit otherwise. The bandits wouldn't be out there raiding the place. That's. Cut the number of soldiers down to 1/3, and quit everyone who is in charge. We can't afford to spend money on incompetents. We can save money by firing the ones with the highest salaries first. With the extra money, I ordered Lampard to restructure the place. Lampard reluctantly obeyed. Ha ha ha. It's great to be in a position to give orders to others. In my previous life, I was just knocked down from above. Aristocrats are the best. I was giving Lampard all kinds of orders, but he said he was short-handed. There are too few people in this mansion to begin with, he said. And because there's not enough people, there's no decent standard of service. That's not good. It's my house, so of course I need better service. I've decided to hire people whose parents have had their livestock and land confiscated to be my servants. I know they don't want to work for me, but I'm a lord. You belong to me. I know they have a grudge against me. So I said to them, I don't ask you to forgive me, I don't expect you to forgive me. If you want to hate me, you have the right to do so. But I will tell you this, you can't eat with a grudge. If you have a grudge against me, have it. But will it make your life easier? Will it change your life? You have two choices. One is to die in the field with a grudge against me. The other is to hate me and obey me. Choose, I don't care either way. But if you work for me here, I'll guarantee you a minimum standard of living. Well, I can only guarantee a bare minimum. After all, I have no money. They were in tears, but I still forced them to work. My orders are final. Ha ha ha. I felt so confident and superior. I also reduced the salaries of those who had been working until now to the bare minimum. I drank tea elegantly while Lampard and many other servants were working hard. Tea while others are working is very nice. Tea is delicious. Today, I am living as I please as a villainous aristocrat. Chapter 3. There is a game called First Fantasy. It is a game that has captivated not only the Japanese but also the whole world. The series has now reached 15 games, and its spin-offs are included. They have been more than twice as many games as in the original series. The series has sold tens of millions of copies per series, making it a monster of a production. There is an anime version of FF. It was broadcast on a limited scale on a well-known online distribution site. It is titled First Story. It is an anime that blasted off. Because the main characters meet an undeserved end, it became a work that had a large percentage of both praise and disapproval, mainly disapproval reviews. However, the problem is not with the end, but rather with the storyline. The main reason for the bombshell is the amount of depressing developments. Every episode was filled with depressing elements, to the point that even FF players, who are relatively accustomed to depressing developments, were fed up with it. It is so unpopular that it is said to be a completely separate product from FF. It is also called FS in the sense that it is a different work from FF. The character who appears as the villain in this work is named Ark Noyadama. He is a typical bite dog, despite his regal title. The Master of Evil. He is a former nobleman whose family collapsed when he was 15 years old and he fell into the dark side. His end was so horrific that it left the viewer traumatized, not to mention disgusted. Another soul has entered the body of Ark. Who knows what kind of changes this will bring about in his troubled future. Lampard thinks as he watches his master drinking tea. This man is a miracle. The Noyadama family had fallen as far as they could fall. They had fallen. Fraud, illegal slavery, excess taxation, head tax, reckless and meaningless military affairs, and so on. The territory was in ruins, but it was especially terrible in the days of his predecessor. All they cared about was exploiting the people of the territory. They would spend the money they had made on spending, and when they ran out of money, they would further exploit the people. They took the livestock, they took the land. Lampard knew that it was only a matter of time before the territory would go bankrupt. Then his predecessor died, and Ark was given the title of Earl Garum. At first, Lampard did not have high hopes for Ark. He thought that Ark, who had been spoiled and raised by the previous head of the family, could not possibly be a sane man. In the first place, his ages. What could an 8-year-old child do? However, this thinking was brilliantly subverted. As soon as Ark became a young earl, he had all the previous wrongdoings exposed at once. He even offered a generous compensation to those who had been harmed by the wrongdoings. He even sold the Noyadama family's property to compensate them. All excessive taxes, unjust ordinances, and slavery were eliminated. He even put those who had been deprived of their jobs by their earlier rulers to work as servants, creating jobs for them. Those who had been deprived of livestock and land and were struggling to survive today shed tears of joy. Of course, there were those who held grudges against Ark. In fact, most of them had a grudge against him. But that was not Ark's fault. It would be the responsibility of the previous ruler and the previous generation. It would be harsh to hold an 8-year-old child responsible for the sins of his parents. But Ark was firm in his response to them. I don't ask you to forgive me, I don't expect you to forgive me. If you want to hate me, you have the right to do so. But I will say this, you can't eat with a grudge. If you have a grudge against me, have it. But will it make your life easier? Will it change your life? You have two choices. One is to die in the field with a grudge against me. The other is to hate me and obey me. Choose, I don't care either way. But if you work here, I'll guarantee you a bare minimum livelihood. Lampard describes Ark as a kind-hearted master who accepts hatred, but acts for the good of his people. Ark also paid his servants a fairly large salary. Ark called it a bare minimum salary. But that was by Ark's standards. For a commoner, this was more than enough. And those who had been working for little pay were now being offered a salary to suit their needs. This was another reason why Lampard thought that Ark was kind-hearted. However, even Lampard was surprised and opposed to the idea of disarmament. The bandits are now running amok. If the size of the army is reduced any further, the damage will be even larger. Demons have also been appearing in large numbers in recent years. A few years ago, some countries were destroyed by the outbreak of monsters. The deaths of Ark's parents were also caused by monsters. However, is this current army able to protect the territory from bandits and monsters? I don't think so. If it's just a vanity army, we're better off without it. We can't afford to spend money on a bunch of incompetents. Lampard thought Ark had a point and followed his orders. Lampard then began to take a deeper look at Ark's words. If it's an unneeded army, we're better off without it. That means, build an army that has value. Lampard thought so. He took Ark's order to enhance the quality of the soldiers while reducing the size of the army. As a result, the size of the army was reduced. Of course, Ark had no such intentions, but Lampard misunderstood Ark on his own. Lampard thought that Ark would not have been foolish enough to simply reduce the size of the army under such circumstances. Lampard was fundamentally mistaken about Ark. T's good. Lampard looked at Ark. Even now, Ark is watching the servants work. He is a kind-hearted master. He must be thinking about the servants even now. Lampard thanked God. Thus, Ark's greedy behavior was misunderstood by Lampard. Walker of the Worlds. Chapter 1813 Six Faiths Soul Mystic Art. I have to say, your actions have been suspicious even for me. Dugyashan spoke, expressing some doubts. Why is it that you have no sponsor, and yet managed to get free entry into the palace grounds? Then there's the strange thing about those companions of yours. They are quite weak and yet, they've managed to come too far. All those that fought your companions show discrepancies in their fighting styles too. Dugyashan continued to speak. Why is that? It is not something that should be possible if one thinks about it rationally. That's because I've been teaching them. Lin Mu presented a fact while avoiding showing any extra thoughts. Dugyashan felt the thoughts of Lin Mu and could somewhat see Lin Mu teaching his companions. Lin Mu even let off a few thoughts in the form of memories, allowing Dugyashan to see even more. Dugyashan saw how Lin Mu extracted the weaknesses of the opponents and then formulated tactics that could allow even weaker opponents to defeat them. Most of it was indeed accurate, thus Dugyashan had no reason but to accept it as the truth. Astonishing intellect. I haven't come across many immortals that can analyze like you do. The few that I have, are all old experts that cannot be touched. Dugyashan replied. Sigh. Oh, how I wish I found you earlier. Perhaps I would have been able to grow stronger even faster, Dugyashan said before a strange aura flowed off him. Lin Mu felt it too and realized that it wasn't coming from the man's body. It's coming directly from his mind. Lin Mu sensed XT. You are correct, Dugyashan replied, and since you've been so good at guessing, I'll throw you a few freebies. Lin Mu waited in silence for the man to speak while keeping his senses alert. He had no idea what he would have to be dealing with after all, and if Dugyashan intended to take his memories, it would be quite dangerous for Lin Mu after all. He knew things that could not only be threatening to himself but also to others if it was revealed. Simply the fact that he was the demon who had stolen the violet mystic life tree would be enough to spur a war, and this was barely one of the sensitive pieces of memories that Lin Mu had. Seems like I'll have to see you after the tournament, Lin Mu said openly. I might not be able to harm you during it, but I'll be sure to go after you, he promised. Haha. Sure, you can try that, Dugushan laughed, but that if you can even remember all this, I'll be erasing your memories of this interaction. You can try. Lin Mu taunted this time. I sure will. Why don't we start with the fun, then? Dugushan said, the aura coming from him turning dangerous. Lin Mu felt his vision change and his body getting lighter. A few moments later, everything around him had disappeared and he was no longer in the spatial plane. He could tell that this was an illusory change though, as he could still pick up on the spatial fluctuations. Rumble. But this was just the start, as a new area appeared around Lin Mu. He was surrounded by a barren land that looked quite different from the spatial plane. The ground seemed to be made out of stone and there were no clouds or sun in the sky. The sky just looked like an empty night sky with no moons or stars. Just as Lin Mu glanced at all this, the ground shook as large pillars rose from them. The pillars were made out of stone and were carved with various motifs. Lin Mu counted the pillars and found there to be 36 of them. They were set in 2 rows of 18 each. The pillars lined both sides of Lin Mu, blocking him in place. Then, a large statue rose from the end of the pillars. It was located at the very back and took up the space between the 2 rows. Lin Mu glanced at the statue and found it to be some kind of a creature. It looked to be humanoid and had 2 arms and 2 legs. Its face though was featureless. And standing in front of it was none other than Dugushan. Since you like learning about new things, I think you'll find pleasure in learning about this too. Dugushan spoke. Not many have gotten the chance to witness this after all, he said, spreading his arms wide. And what exactly am I witnessing? Lin Mu asked. What you are witnessing is the legendary 6 Faith Soul Mystic Art. Dugushan revealed. Boom. And as if on his command, the statue behind him shook and its head exploded. The stone head was gone, leaving only a broken neck behind, but that was only for a few seconds, as Lin Mu soon saw something wiggling out of the stone neck. What is? Lin Mu watched it all in astonishment as flesh started to grow from the broken neck. The flesh grew to take the shape of a head, but it was still featureless. Witness the power of the 6 Faiths deity. Dugushan shouted. Open. He ordered. Slick. Soul itself. In the next moment, white illusory ribbons started to come out of with his command. 6 slits opened up on the fleshy head. The slits expanded into 6 eyes that looked to be empty. The eyes had no pupils and were only white sclera with dark red veins spreading through them. 6 Faiths Soul Eye Mystic Art, Eyes of Engulfment. Dugushan chanted while pointing at Lin Mu. Scream. An inhuman scream was heard at that moment, as the pupil-less glared at Lin Mu. Ah! Lin Mu felt a great pain that seemed to be rising from his soul itself. In the next moment, white illusory ribbons started to come out of Lin Mu's head and flew towards the 6 eyes. They entered the 6 eyes while Dugushan smiled in pleasure. Good, good. I see it all now. Chapter 1814 Revealing Secrets. Lin Mu had been wary of Dugushan since the start, but didn't expect him to become his toughest adversary so far. His body couldn't respond and the skill that the man was using could bypass his defenses. I have to resist it. I can't have him see my memories, Lin Mu thought. It's useless. I know it all. Dugushan said as he observed the memories that were coming from Lin Mu. The white ribbons were all made up for Lin Mu's memories and were quite concentrated. Each ribbon had hundreds of memories contained within them and the 6 eyes were absorbing them all. Oh. So you've been manipulating the fights all this far. I never expected this would be possible. Dugushan learned one of the first secrets and your companions are all involved in it too. No wonder they managed to come so far. You've been assisting them, he said with surprise. Ah. Lin Mu could only groan in pain though, unable to resist the memory drain. Second after second passed, as Dugushan continued to look, and this time, Lin Mu tried to resist using the 9 Divine Heart Sutra but was unable to. I can't speak, the sutras don't work. Lin Mu was restricted by the limitation of the sutras. Even when he had managed to prevent Dugushan from looking at his thoughts earlier, it was only through his sheer familiarity with the Calming Heart Sutra and the Severing Heart Sutra. Because of how much he had used them, he could replicate their effects just through his own effort. And while Lin Mu was trying to figure out a way while suffering in pain, Dugushan was getting more and more surprised by the minute. Your target is Yao Changying? And you were sponsored by the Crown Prince himself? Du Guishan had certainly not expected this. I thought that he was sponsored by some noble that might be high up, considering he got an easy entry into the palace grounds, but certainly not this. Unknowingly, Du Guishan was starting to feel a bit nervous too now, but he couldn't stop looking now. The temptation was simply too irresistible for him. They want you to defeat Yao Changying as well as Feng Baxing? A rather tall order, oh. And you're a body cultivator too. No wonder you were able to last this long despite being at the second tribulation stage of the immortal realm. Du Guishan was learning more and more. You should stop, Lin Mu warned. It won't end well for you. Haha, your threats are useless, Du Guishan replied. Do you think just because you are being backed by the Crown Prince, you will be able to do anything? After I'm done with this, you'll have no memories of it at all, he mocked Lin Mu. Lin Mu gritted his teeth and tried his best to resist, but he couldn't do much, as he didn't know where to begin from. If only I could use the 9 Divine Heart Sutras without chanting them verbally, Lin Mu strongly desired it now. He tried all the sutras one by one, right from the Calming Heart Sutra all the way to the Murdering Heart Sutra, which he had restrained from using due to its dangerous implications. In all this though, Lin Mu realized one thing. He's not reading my thoughts directly now, he's focused on the memories. Lin Mu understood. He had already thought about the sutras and more, thus if Du Guishan was monitoring his thoughts, he would have already noticed it. After all, he was excitedly speaking about all that he had learned. Just to confirm it though, Lin Mu tested something out. Du Guishan, Lin Mu shouted out loud in his mind, but there was no response from the man. This is good. I might be able to make use of it. Lin Mu understood that Du Guishan was reading his memories in reverse chronological order. I still have time till he reaches the critical memories that contain the biggest secrets, Lin Mu thought. He could manage the information about Yao Changying and Feng Baxing getting targeted getting out. Lin Mu was sure that the Crown Prince wouldn't sit still if that was being spread and would act, and seeing how Du Guishan showed some nervousness upon learning that, he was sure that the man was wary of the prince still. Minute after minute passed as Lin Mu continued to struggle, while Du Guishan read through his memories with great interest. You're the demon too. Du Guishan showed shock after learning this. My, you surely have some skills to do all this. The man hadn't expected such a secret. After all, the transformation Lin Mu underwent was quite astounding. Since you stole the Violet Mystic Life Tree, you have it right? It'll be fun to get that too. Du Guishan laughed, thinking that it was already within his grasp. Let's see what else you have hidden. He went deeper this time. Lin Mu could see that the man was skipping some of the memories and directly going into deeper ones. The strain on Lin Mu's mind increased as well, with the memories being pulled at a faster speed. Oh. What's this, woman? You call her Saintess? Du Guishan suddenly said, slowing down. Stop. Lin Mu shouted, fury rising in his mind. Did I hit a sensitive spot? Let's see what more is there. Du Guishan started digging further. He could see the Saintess within Lin Mu's memories as well as the conversations they'd have had, and that he heard several names too, including the Serpent Moon sect. But while he was doing this, the person of interest was aware of it too. Away in the 100 Fruits Pavilion, the Saintess looked up at the sky. A scowl appeared on her face under the veil as she spoke. A fool that dares tread upon mine and my sect's karma. The Saintess spoke. You should stop before you commit an unforgivable sin, her voice transcending the very space itself. Immortal World Wanderer, Xiangsha, by I am Link 61 settling in Zhang Village. Shangwen Ruolin looked at the bewildered Shu Han with annoyance and snorted. You little guy have picked up a bargain. Those fragments of golden core are worth 100 years of hard cultivation. If you refine these fragments, they should be enough to help you break through the initial peak and reach the middle stage of foundation establishment. Shu Han was stunned. He quickly sat cross-legged, examining his body's meridians and danshan. Sure enough, near his danshan, he could indeed see some golden fragments wandering. These small golden fragments made Shu Han feel an overwhelming and pure spiritual power. Shu Han quickly said. There are fragments of senior in my body. Won't it affect senior's cultivation? Shouldn't I extract them and return them to senior? If it was possible to extract and repair my golden core, I would have done it already. Shangwen Ruolin crossed her arms, not very pleased, and said. It's not that easy to repair a shattered golden core, kid. You better recover from your injuries quickly. I'll assist you in absorbing these fragments of golden core. The emergence of the heavenly creation fluid is not far away. If you can improve your cultivation, it will be beneficial to our mission. Shu Han nodded, sincerely saying, I will do my best to obtain the heavenly creation fluid for the senior. That's a must. I've imparted you with secret techniques and given you fragments of golden core. If you can't get it, I'll eat you alive to compensate for the loss. Shu Han chuckled. Although Shangwen Ruolin was becoming increasingly fierce towards him, he could vaguely feel the cold distance between them gradually melting. Thus, Shu Han took out the healing spiritual medicine from his storage bag and started to repair his damaged danshan and meridians. He had not settled into meditation for a while when he was awakened by a slap from Shangwen Ruolin. Shangwen Ruolin held out her small hand in front of him and angrily said, You're just going to eat all of it yourself? Where's my share? Shu Han scratched his head and said, You've eaten up all the stock in these past few days, and I haven't had time to make more. How about I give you some spirit stones? I have plenty of those. The old man in the mine gave me a bunch. Spirit stones aren't as gentle as elixirs, but they'll do. Give them here. Shu Han directly tossed a big bag of spirit stones to Shangwen Ruolin. Shangwen Ruolin, with her small body, struggled to carry the large bag of spirit stones. She said, Kid, from now on, you must follow me everywhere. That damned girl won't give up so easily. If she comes looking and you're not by my side, I won't be able to do anything. So, he was just a meat shield. Shu Han. As you command. And so, Shu Han and Shangwen Ruolin settled down in Zhang village, at Madame Song's house. Currently, only Madame Song and her son were living in the house, and there were no adult men in the entire village. It was said that they had all been taken to nearby snowy mountains by surrounding gangs to dig for snow lotus, so all the farm work and household chores were left to the village women and children. The people of Zhang village were simple and honest, and Madame Song was particularly hospitable. She was especially fond of Shangwen Ruolin, always complimenting her on her beauty and even giving her snacks that she normally wouldn't even give to her own child. Even though Shangwen Ruolin had a temper, she was helpless against this enthusiastic rural woman and was neatly arranged by her. 7 days later, Shu Han had consumed all the healing elixirs, and his meridians and danshan began to show some signs of recovery. Next, Shangwen Ruolin began assisting him in absorbing the golden core fragments. Shu Han originally couldn't refine these golden core fragments at all, but he could absorb them with Shangwen Ruolin's help. Every time he absorbed a bit of the massive golden core spiritual power, his cultivation visibly increased. However, Shu Han found it odd because he felt that there were two different breaths of spiritual power in this golden core. These two distinctly different spiritual powers fought against each other, often making Shu Han feel uncomfortable all over. But whenever he asked about this, Shangwen Ruolin would avoid the topic and even directly threaten to kick him. Shu Han thought everyone had their own secrets. Since Shangwen Ruolin didn't want to talk about it, Shu Han was tactful enough not to ask any more questions. However, during these days, Shangwen Ruolin was always with him, and only then did Shu Han realize that Shangwen Ruolin's real condition wasn't as good as he imagined. She might seem full of energy, but Shu Han knew that the more clingy she was, the worse her current situation was. Being followed by Shangwen Ruolin all day, he didn't get a chance to use a black jar to replicate medicinal materials for pill refining. The villagers joked that the pretty girl liked to stick to her brother. Shu Han retorted in his heart that she didn't like to stick to her brother, she just couldn't do without a human shield. Since he couldn't refine pills quietly by himself, Shu Han felt bad about freeloading at Madame Song's house and volunteered to take over all the field work. Madame Song tried to decline several times, but she couldn't resist Shu Han's enthusiasm and let him take up the hoe and work in the field. Madame Song originally thought that Shu Han, as a scholar from the city, wouldn't know how to do farm work and was just trying to find something to do, but she didn't know that Shu Han had been delivering food and water to his parents in the field since he was very young, and he was very familiar with farm work. Coupled with years of martial arts training and a sturdy physique from the foundation establishment stage, Shu Han was even faster than several oxen combined when he worked in the fields. This stunned the women of Zhang village, and his impressive performance immediately ignited the women's enthusiasm for finding a son-in-law. Those who came to propose marriage almost broke Madame Song's threshold. There was even a madam who brought her 3-year-old daughter to Shu Han, boasting about how beautiful her daughter would be in the future, saying that she wanted to marry her daughter to Shu Han. Whenever the eligible girls in the village caught sight of Shu Han while working outside, their faces would turn red with shyness. Shu Han was dumbfounded. He was just farming. How did he become a hot commodity in the surrounding villages? The same situation happened with Shangwen Ruolin. This noble and aloof porcelain doll stunned all the boys and girls of Zhang village as soon as she appeared. Shangwen Ruolin didn't need to do anything. She just stood at the door and glanced coldly at the children, instantly becoming the de facto leader of the Zhang village children. As a result, sniffling children were lining up all day long, offering Shangwen Ruolin their treasured toys and snacks wherever Shangwen Ruolin went. A group of children would follow her from a distance. A mysterious, noble, and cold aura left these children in awe. Today, while Shu Han was loosening the soil in the field, Shangwen Ruolin was idly watching from the ridges. Madame Song's son was following her from a distance, clutching a bunch of small wild chrysanthemums, his little face full of hesitation. Among all the children in Zhang village, Madame Song's son liked Shangwen Ruolin the most. Madame Song often scolded him. "My boy, Ruolin is a city girl and she's too beautiful. You can't hold on to her." However, her son wouldn't listen and always watched Shangwen Ruolin from a distance, dreaming of holding her hand and playing with mud together. Seeing Madame Song's son, Shu Han walked over with an idea in mind. He came to the boy's side. At this time, Shangwen Ruolin was still sitting on the ridge, not caring about what Shu Han was doing as long as he didn't leave her side. Shu Han said to the boy, "Boy, Ruolin doesn't like picking flowers. If you want to impress her, you have to take her to see a sea of flowers. I think the one ahead is perfect. Then you have to tell her these." The boy, with his nose running, listened blankly to Shu Han's instruction. Shu Han patted him on the shoulder, encouraging him. "Be braver. Invite her to play. Brother supports you." The boy nodded heavily. "I just inherited the Arcane Emperor's legacy." Chapter 225, Advanced. The minute the pill entered his mouth, it melted, leaving a warm sensation in his mouth. This was short-lived, as the heat kept increasing. The comforting warmth turned into a smoldering burn. All of the aura inside the pill burst out of it, ready to rampage. However, it was quickly and forcibly controlled by Leo, who started channeling it. He forced it down his throat, carrying the burning sensation down his body. The aura quickly gushed into his stomach and was ready to wreak havoc, but he split up the whole sea into two parts. Then he started circulating the two parts from different ends of his stomach around his body. They were circulating in the same direction as each other, but never met and combined. This meant that while the entire aura would have damaged his body if it was allowed to circulate, the separated halves couldn't do anything. After an hour, parts of the aura that had been circulating for a long time started to calm down. He brought it into his danshan and settled it there. As more and more aura entered it, his aura level started increasing. He was firmly in the middle stage before taking the pill, but he started approaching the late stage after another hour. The aura he had tamed was enough for him to advance. However, he didn't open his eyes yet, even though he broke through a level. A late stage second circle aura knight would be considered a very high level of accomplishment, especially for someone as young as him. It would probably even be enough for him to enter the Phoenix trials and get past the reserve member status. But he didn't care about what others thought was enough. He wouldn't be satisfied with something as small as a minor breakthrough. With the amount of aura present in the pill, he would be ashamed if he stopped just at the late stage. He kept circulating the aura in his body for a long time. Half a day passed and he persistently kept at the process. Nothing was making him stop. His concentration hadn't declined at all, which made Nefertiti a little surprised. At this point, very few things that happened around Leo were making her truly astonished. She had seen a lot of things in her time, and she would be surprised if anything that she didn't see happened in front of her. However, Leo had broken all of those with his absurd accomplishments and she was getting used to them. As the hours went by, the only aura left circulating through his body was that which was completely tamed. Once that happened, he brought together the two halves of the aura. Since they were completely tamed by him, the aura calmly flowed through his body. Once he did this, he got ready for the next step. It was time for him to move on to the next part of his agenda, reaching the third circle. He allowed a part of the aura to enter his danshan to reach the peak stage of the second circle. Once it settled there, he started forming the circle. There was a vast difference between forming a circle before going to the blood god's temple and forming a circle after. The major one was that the circle he was going to draw was 10 times more complicated than before. Fortunately for him, there were 3 positive differences. One was that he perfectly knew exactly what the circle looked like. The knowledge of it was wedged into his mind by the blood god, making sure that he would know if he was making a mistake. The second positive difference was that he had reached the divergent mind stage. This gave him a higher control over his aura, making it easier for him to draw the circle. And the final, and maybe the highest definitive difference that decided whether the circle would successfully be formed or not, was his breakthrough to the 4th star in magic. Because of his breakthrough, his ability to control aura and concentrate had increased so heavily that he didn't need pills and potions that helped him draw the circle. Knowing all of these, he immediately started drawing the circle. The minute he did, he started to realize the change in his body with the blood aura in him instead of shadow aura. His body was more active and restless. He started off with the outer circle, the easiest of them all. Drawing it with the aura he had was fairly simple. The more difficult part was keeping it that way while he drew the rest of the aura circle. As he maintained the circle, he quickly went on to the numerous inner circles. While he couldn't afford to make a mistake, he also couldn't afford to be too slow. He was confident with his accuracy, so he sped through the process. He drew a total of 4 circles. After that, he turned to the hard part, connecting them while maintaining the circles with his concentration. He quickly started drawing the runes that connected each of the circles. This was the first time he needed to draw such a complicated circle, but his immense concentration and focus were pulling him through. The circle became more and more complete. Lines between the circles formed, and runes were etched between them. Designs were starting to become apparent, as were the words displayed by the runes. A bead of sweat started to form on his forehead and it slowly trickled down his face. It rolled to his chin where it lingered there for just a second. Before dropping onto his lap, he let out a huge breath and gasped for air. His body tumbled back onto the soft cushion. He looked at the ceiling with eyes that smiled even when his mouth was gasping for air. "Congratulations," Nefertiti said to him. "Thank you." He had crossed the barrier and got to the 3rd circle. This made him as strong as a baron without even needing to use magic, at least close to that level. 6 days have gone by. Nefertiti said she had been keeping track of time for him while he was busy practicing. It was useful since he would know exactly how much time he had left before needing to leave for the academy. With 6 days gone, he still had around a month left. Out of those 6 days, he had used most of his time to separate the shadow element from his aura. Now with his breakthrough, he had completely filled his body with blood aura. The change was very visible. The shadow aura was perfect if he wanted to conceal himself and sneakily attack his enemies. The only similarity it shared with blood aura was that it also siphoned off aura from its enemies. Blood aura, on the other hand, was extremely violent and would favor head-on collisions. He didn't mind it, except that it would put him in the light and he wouldn't be able to hide his involvement in a fight. It was a trade-off he was willing to accept. He was noticing the difference in the quality of aura immediately, but he wanted to test it out before coming to any conclusions. Reincarnated as a king of an island by Fishman Sensei. Chapter 1, A New Beginning. In the hallowed halls of academia, Peter found himself teetering on the precipice of failure. A struggling university student with a penchant for escapism, his solace lay in the words of web novels. Tales spun from the ethereal threads of imagination, yet even the most fantastical narratives couldn't sway him from the clutches of disinterest. One such web novel had ensnared his attention momentarily, a narrative boasting an arrogant protagonist who ascended to kingship on a remote island, only to grapple incessantly with spectral apparitions and malevolent monsters. As swiftly as Peter's curiosity had been piqued, it waned, for the predictable trajectory of the protagonist's journey, marked by unbridled power, the pursuit of love interests, and an unending barrage of righteous face slappings, rendered his virtual excursions nothing short of exhausting. In the aftermath of his web novel abandonment, a serendipitous encounter awaited Peter in the digital realm. An inconspicuous advertisement beckoned to him from the very site he had once frequented for his literary escapades. Though he typically paid no heed to such digital siren calls, an unusual allure compelled him to click. What materialized before him was not another tale-bounding text but an invitation to a realm where dreams and reality blurred. It was a game that promised more than mere entertainment. This was an opportunity to step into the shoes of the island sovereign, not in the confines of fiction but in the tangible realm of the real world. Doubt momentarily gnawed at him as he skimmed through the game's assorted reviews, some lauding its brilliance, others decrying its flaws. Yet, driven by an intangible intrigue, he resolved to download the game, venturing forth into uncharted territory despite the less than stellar graphics that greeted him. A peculiar sensation tingled within him, akin to the faint stirrings of destiny. The game's premise and narrative structure, as revealed through initial glimpses, hinted at a meticulously crafted experience that transcended the shortcomings of its visual presentation. With conviction, Peter delved into the game's customization options, selecting the path of least resistance and configuring the game in its easiest mode. His pragmatic approach, though perhaps seen as self-serving, was simply a pragmatic choice in pursuit of maximum enjoyment. As Peter readied himself for the impending adventure, the game posed a final, fateful query: did he desire a beginner's pack? In a heartbeat, his cursor hovered over the affirmative, and he clicked yes, not knowing the magnitude of the choice he had made. Then, the ultimate proposition loomed before him, a decision of irreversible consequence. Did he wish to enter this world? In the throes of an instinctual impulse, he clicked yes once more, oblivious to the enigmatic ramifications that lay concealed behind that virtual gateway. And thus, the die was cast, the die that would usher Peter into a reality that transcended the boundaries of imagination. In that moment, he couldn't fathom the gravity of the digital pact he had sealed, nor the adventures, challenges, and revelations that awaited him in a world not confined to the realm of ones and zeros. As Peter stood there, surrounded by the picturesque beauty of the tropical island, a surreal sense of bewilderment enveloped him. The vibrant hues of the lush greenery, the pristine expanse of the sandy beach, and the crystal clear blue sky above painted a paradise he couldn't have fathomed. The ocean breeze carried the soothing scent of salt, further immersing him in this idyllic dreamscape. Yet a shadow soon cast itself upon Peter's newfound serenity. It was a moment of profound realization that rippled through his consciousness like a shockwave. He couldn't ignore the creeping certainty any longer. Something inexplicable had occurred. This wasn't merely a vacation or a lucid dream. He had been transported into a world he couldn't comprehend. In an attempt to rationalize this bizarre situation, Peter reached out and slapped himself across the face, a crude act of desperation. The sharp pain that flared in response was undeniable, crushing any lingering disbelief he had truly transmigrated, finding himself ensnared within the confines of a strange indie game whose very name had escaped his memory. As the initial shock began to wane, a profound sense of sadness seeped into his being. It weighed on his shoulders like a heavy cloak of despair. The isolation of this foreign world dawned on him, and with it came the crushing reality that he might never see his friends or family again. While university life had often felt like an oppressive burden, a part of him had always yearned for the comfort of familiarity. Now that he was separated from his loved ones by an insurmountable divide, he realized the depth of his longing. The opportunity to escape the mundanity of his previous life had been granted in the most unexpected and irreversible way, leaving him adrift in a sea of isolation in this alien world, where the rules were uncertain and the future unknown. Peter grappled not with mere physical challenges but with the profound emotional turmoil of his unexpected journey. As Peter's initial shock began to ebb away, he suddenly heard a voice piercing through the unfamiliar surroundings. The words were garbled, not quite English, yet they held a peculiar familiarity. Your Highness, thank Zink you are okay. The voice was strained and filled with relief, and Peter instinctively turned toward its source. A slow figure was approaching, an elderly man with weathered features, his eyes brimming with gratitude and reverence. In that moment, time itself seemed to freeze. Peter's perception shifted, and he found himself enveloped in a surreal mechanical interface, a fusion of information and reality. A mechanical voice, devoid of emotion, resonated within his consciousness, a stark contrast to the old man's heartfelt exclamation. The voice informed him that this was a unique moment, the only instance when time would be paused to offer explanations. Peter braced himself for what was to come. The mechanized voice began to elucidate his predicament. He was not in his own world anymore. He had been transported to a parallel dimension, a world almost identical to his own in 2003. Within this realm, he now inhabited the body of the newly crowned king of the Mackay kingdom, a monarch named Peter Ryan. The voice continued to relay information, explaining that the language he had heard the old man speak was Mackay, the native tongue of this country. Remarkably, Peter found himself understanding and speaking it fluently, as if it had been a part of him all along. However, the mechanical voice made it clear that he wouldn't receive any conventional cheats or advantages. Instead, he would be granted access to a comprehensive interface filled with knowledge about the kingdom, its culture, history, the island, its inhabitants, and much more. It was a resource that would aid him in navigating this unfamiliar world and making crucial decisions as its ruler. As the information settled within him, Peter couldn't help but feel a sense of trepidation mixed with intrigue. He was no longer the university student burdened by the weight of his mundane life. He was now King Peter Ryan in a parallel world, standing at the precipice of an extraordinary journey, armed not with power but with knowledge. As Peter pondered the prospect of selecting his beginner package, a digital lucky wheel materialized before him and began to spin, its vibrant colors blending into a mesmerizing whirl. Intrigued and eager, Peter tried to engage the voice in conversation, seeking hints or insights into his choices. "Peter. So, what exactly do these options mean? Can you give me some guidance?" The voice remained silent, offering no response as the wheel continued its enigmatic rotation. After a brief yet tantalizing wait, the wheel gradually slowed down, eventually landing on a space labeled Random Athlete Templates. Peter furrowed his brow, uncertain about what this entailed. "Peter. Athlete templates? What's that all about?" The voice finally provided some clarity. Voice. You now have the power to draw templates of athletes and individuals you can infuse with the citizens of Mackay. This unique ability will shape the nation into an athletic and sports-oriented country. You'll start with 3 templates, with the possibility of acquiring more in the future. Excitement coursed through him as he embarked on drawing his first template. The card displayed a basketball, and with a flourish, an animation revealed a face he instantly recognized, Dr. J, also known as Julia. Serving the prospect of having a citizen resembling the legendary basketball player filled him with exhilaration. "Peter. Whoa, Dr. J. That's amazing." His anticipation peaked as he drew the second template, which bore an entirely different vibe. Initially perplexed, Peter's gaze locked onto a tennis racket. The animation that followed left him dumbfounded. It was none other than Steffi Graf, an icon of tennis, a dominant female player, and a legend in her own right. "Peter. Steffi Graf? Are you serious? This is incredible." The final template held no surprises, displaying a football, soccer ball, and an image of Bebito. At first, Peter was unfamiliar with Bebito's legacy, so he inquired with the voice for more information. "Peter. Bebito? Tell me more about him." The voice obliged, revealing that Bebito was a Brazilian footballer known for his flair, skill, and goal-scoring prowess. He had enjoyed a storied career in which he became a key figure in Brazil's football history. "Peter. Bebito, I got it. This is shaping up to be quite the team." With newfound knowledge and excitement, Peter couldn't contain his joy. All 3 templates he had drawn represented superstars in their respective fields, and the potential impact on Mackay's athletic landscape was immense. He leaped and danced in jubilation, envisioning a nation of athletic excellence. However, the voice offered a word of caution, reminding him that these initial cards were all S cards, implying that acquiring such remarkable templates in the future might be a rarity. The road ahead, it seemed, held both grand possibilities and intriguing challenges for the newly crowned King Peter Ryan in his quest to shape the kingdom of Mackay into an athletic and economic powerhouse. Reincarnated as Villain Noble, but magic is a lot of fun. 01 to 09, by Royal. Chapter 1. Reincarnation in Another World. This is a popular type of story in the novel and anime industry that is well known by everyone nowadays. It is a story in which the main character dies for one reason or another, is reincarnated in a medieval Europe-like world where magic and witchcraft exist, and gets up to all sorts of trouble. Especially recently, villain aristocrat stories, in which the protagonist is reincarnated as a villain in a game or novel and works hard to avoid the fate of death, are very popular. I love otherworldly reincarnation stories, and I have read many villain aristocrat ones. Why did I bring this up all of a sudden? Well, to put it simply, I'm just becoming one right now, I guess. This is Friedrich, right? I look at my reflection in the mirror and mumble to myself in disgust. A young man in the mirror. It is clearly different from the face of average Japanese men like me. Silver hair, red eyes, a devilish horn growing from temple. He was handsome, but he had the face of an evil man with a vicious personality. I recognized that face. It was Friedrich Regulus Mode, the aristocrat and the middle boss in the RPG The Apostles of Erenacia. In the game, he takes pride in being an aristocrat, makes fun of the main character, who is a commoner, sometimes violently attacks him, and even tries to sleep with the heroine, who is in love with the main character. Could it be that I've been reincarnated as Friedrich? Reincarnation into another world. Such a phrase popped into my head. I've enjoyed this type of story in novels and anime, but I never thought I'd get caught up in it. That means I am dead? It is common knowledge that the protagonists of otherworldly stories usually die in the real world and get reincarnated. If that's the case, then I, an ordinary guy who worked as an office worker in the real world, died. It was a tough time to be a middle manager. Friedrich's reflection in the mirror makes a distant look. The manager's title is a big deal, but all you have to do is educate your subordinates and respond to your boss's reckless behavior. No, I have to think about the situation now. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't shocked to find myself dead, but I've been reincarnated as Friedrich. The setting of The Apostles of Erenacia is a magic academy of Kadnik, located in the neutral kingdom of Hora. While studying magic there, the main characters fight a secret society that is plotting the resurrection of a demonic god, and before long, they find themselves in a war that involves the entire continent. The story takes place in a fantasy world where, in addition to humans, there are beastmen, demons. Friedrich's race is also a demon race, by the way, and elves, who are also fairies. The head of the secret organization that plans to revive the evil god is the Marquis Mode, Friedrich's father, who is the last boss of the game. In other words, I was reincarnated as the son of the last boss as well as a villainous aristocrat. Isn't that too hard? I was a little disappointed. In the middle of the game, the main character has to fight Friedrich in the graduation exam at the Kadonic Magic Academy. Of course, Friedrich always loses because so it's over if he loses here, and of course, for the sake of the scenario, the Marquis Mode is disappointed in Friedrich because he lost to a commoner, and he brainwashes him into going berserk and spitting out words at the protagonists. Friedrich has no ego at that time, and he is a pathetic man who is turned into a punching bag by his own father, but his previous evil deeds are too much for the players to feel much sympathy for him. How can I avoid such a fate? Perhaps the turning point for that pitiful ending for Friedrich was his defeat by the protagonist in the graduation exam. From the perspective of the Marquis Mode, who highly values aristocratic lineage and looks down on commoners completely, he could not believe that his own son had lost to such a being. As a result, he was disappointed in Friedrich, and treated him like a bullseye. In other words, what I'll have to. I'm going to take the graduation exam and beat the protagonist. That's all I have to do. Although the main character is one of the strongest in the series, this is no time to complain. Is this Friedrich quite young? Friedrich in the mirror looks a lot younger than I remembered. In other words, I am still in the early stages of the game. I'm sure it was a few years before entering the Magic Academy of Kadnik. I've made up my mind I'm going to work hard from now on, and I'm going to defeat that main character for sure. I don't want to be brainwashed by my own father, lose my self-consciousness, and bleed to death as a result of the repercussions of letting my magical power run wild. Before entering the Magic Academy, I will make the most effort and acquire the power to surpass the main character. Also, since I've been reincarnated in a different world, I want to become the strongest person in the world. 16. Chapter 2. Although the Magic Academy of Kadonic has the word magic in its name, it offers a wide range of subjects. In addition to general education such as calculations, history and geography, students learn swordsmanship. In other words, what I have to do is to learn swordsmanship or other martial arts, and to train magic and to train in magic. If I put in a lot of effort from now on, I'm sure I'll be able to suppress the protagonist. Magic? Then I suddenly realized. I'm going to use magic. No, I don't want to say, how obvious is it? Because, you see, it's magic. I can create flames out of my own palms. If you're a guy, you must have thought about it at least once since you were born, right? If I could use magic, I might be able to. There are a lot of possibilities. I'm getting excited. But I must calm down now. Actually, there was something I wanted to do to avoid my own certain death. It is to get someone who will definitely be on my side. After all, my own father is the boss. The people around Friedrich are his allies. For example, Friedrich is a child of a noble family, so there are servants and assistants who often appear in fantasy stories, but they are not in the service of Friedrich, but of his father, the Marquis Asmodee. Therefore, it is difficult to say that they are Friedrich's allies. Whatever the case may be, or even worse, they may become my enemies. Even so, I don't know how I would find such person. In the stories I've seen in my previous life, the slaves are the most typical. But can I owe a slave? I want to learn magic from that person if I can. If I am very good at magic and my father gets to know how good I am, he might even invite me to join a secret organization. I don't want that. If I join that secret organization full of traitors, I will never be a part of it. In the end, the main characters will destroy me and that's the end of it. Anyway, I can't imagine a slave giving me a magic lesson. So this scenario is a no-go. I can't think of anything. I muttered in a pitiful voice. It can't be helped. Being reborn in another world is a new experience for me. Came to think of it, where am I? I took a look around the room I was in for the first time. The room was luxurious, with expensive looking furniture and decorations. The beds and other furnishings in the room probably indicate that this was Friedrich's own room. It was inexcusable for a kid to have such a splendid room. When I was a kid, I used to sleep in the same room as my brothers. Knock knock. Excuse me. Suddenly, there is a knock on the door and a woman's voice echoes in the room. Immediately after that, the door to the room was opened and a lady in a maid's outfit entered. Master Friedrich, it's about time you woke up. You're awake? Yes. The old lady maid showed a terribly surprised expression when she saw me standing in front of the mirror. But I was surprised too. Looking out the window, the sun is shining right above the sky. In other words, it's the middle of the day at this hour. Unless a person is lazy, he would be awake. I can't believe Master Friedrich is up at this hour. Usually if I shake you, you don't get up, and if I try to wake you up, you throw something at me. I take back what I said before. It seems that Friedrich was a very lazy person. I mean, throwing stuff. He's not just lazy, he's a violent person, isn't he? Oh, I see. I'm sorry about that. I tried to imitate Friedrich's speech as much as possible. It's too much trouble if people start to find it too strange. Master Friedrich apologized. Double quote. But it seems that my efforts didn't make much effect. It seems that Friedrich is a kind of character T, so people are surprised when he apologizes honestly. Most of such characters are rogues, but well, Friedrich is a rogue's character. So what's the deal in all this? I said, thinking that I was getting nowhere. Well, yes, breakfast. No, I'm here to tell you that lunch is ready. I see. In that case, I'll have it. I am a little nervous at the thought of a nobleman's lunch. I wonder if my table manners are good enough. Today, afterwards, the personal maid for Master Friedrich will be chosen, so you need to make sure you eat well. Personal maid? What's that phrase? At least, I don't think Friedrich had such a person in his life. Yes, the Asmodee family has a rule that when you turn 15 years old, you get a personal assistant from another noble's house in the first place. Didn't I inform you a month ago that today you would be assigned a personal maid? I'm sure that wasn't how it was portrayed in The Apostles of Erudatia. But apparently that's what happened. But this may be expedient. According to this maidservant, my personal maid or something like that is hired from another noble family. In other words, my relationship with the Marquis Asmodee is not so good. If I do it right, I may be able to bring him on my side. I understand. Then lead the way. The lady maid showed me around and I understood something. This mansion I'm living in, the Marquis Asmodee's mansion, is ridiculously large. Well, I'm an aristocrat, right? I'm not sure if it's a good idea for me, a plain person, to live here. Good morning, Master Friedrich. As I enter the dining room, the butlers and maids present bow their heads in unison. I almost fell back at the sight of this breathtaking scene, which I had only seen in TV dramas. Oh, good morning. but I tried to greet them as normal. I didn't want to raise any suspicion here. Master Friedrich, this way, please. A butler pulls out a chair that is probably mine. What a nice treatment. I've only seen such a scene when the president of a business partner has his assistant do it. Thank you. But I am Friedrich. I should be used to this kind of treatment by now. I forced a grin on my face, which was about to pull into a smile, and sat down in the chair he had pulled for me. Friedrich thanks me. And that Friedrich, so moody in the morning, smiles. From inside the room, I hear a few nasty rumors about me here and there. What can I say? Being surprised by something trivial is a common thing for a villainous aristocrat's stories, but being surprised just for being grateful is a very mixed feeling. Friedrich is up late in the morning as usual. While I was gawking at the various dishes placed in front of me, I heard a heavy sound coming from right in front of me. Good morning, Father Droyus. He is tall, which can be seen even when he is sitting down, and has pure grey hair. His face is wrinkled, but his eyes radiate a strong ambition. He is the father of Frederick, whose body I am posseing, the head of the secret organization that is plotting the resurrection of the evil god, and the last boss of the apostles of Erenacia, Dorois Regulus Mode. Today is the day to choose your personal maid of honor, I believe. Yes. Droyus cut the steak with elegant gestures as he began. I didn't mean to call you. The lady in waiting is merely a sort of shield to protect me, you, and the nobility choose a sturdy one at best. Droyce's words made the faces of the maids in the cafeteria twitch. Well, that's understandable. It's like being told that you're going to be the wall of flesh right in front of them. However, this does not mean that Droyce is particularly ruthless. Most of the nobles in this world have this kind of mindset. Nobles who have protected their lands for generations are the great ones, while peasants who just do the daily farm work are the labor force that can be replaced by anyone. Is this aristocracy? I have no idea. I'm going back to my office, Sarzus. Huh? Droyce wiped his mouth and left the dining room with one of the butlers. The rest of the dining room was me, the maids, and the butlers, and the atmosphere was grim to the lowest degree. What the hell is that guy? Well, that's okay. I can't do anything about Droyce now. Anyway, I'll just try to look like a decent son at best. But more importantly, I have a meal in front of me now. I am feeling hungry, and all the food on the table looks delicious. Itadakimasu. I cut my knife into the steak that sat in the center of the table as if to say that I was the main course, and brought it to my mouth. Oh. The steak falls apart as soon as it enters my mouth, and the juices, filled to the brim with flavor, slowly seep into my tongue. To put it simply, delicious. Isn't this the best steak I've ever had in my life? This steak. I thought it would be a disaster to be reincarnated as a villainous aristocrat, but if I can taste this dish, I might be glad just a little bit. It's really just a little bit. Master Friedrich is. He said it tasted so good, he said it was. However, my impression is instantly gone. The butlers and maids were staring at me with dazed eyes, as I merely mumbled the word delicious. What's the matter? That's our line usually. You only took one bite at a time, saying tasteless, but... What? Is that true? Just one bite of such a good steak? Oh, come on, is Master Friedrich the great and powerful, madam? But it seems to be true, from their reaction. I know I've seen this scene somewhere before. Now I think I've seen a scene similar to this scenery in a villainous aristocrat's stories I witnessed in a previous life. I'm sorry, but go get the person who made this dish. I'm right back. One of the maids left the room as if running out, and a man with the appearance of a cook entered the room in an instant. Friedrich-sama, I'm sorry to inform you that I have cooked something that is not to your taste today. I am taken aback. I can see from the cook's flowing apology that Friedrich must have made this cook apologize many times. You can see how bad Friedrich's personality is. But now that might be convenient for me, too. No, I'm sorry too. What? The expression on the cook's face when he looked up was as if he had seen something unbelievable. Well, I know how he feels. The cook, who until yesterday had been asking for an apology for the bad food, was now suddenly apologizing. I would suggest a psychiatrist or a throat specialist. You made such good food every day, but I ate the leftovers, and then I spoke out of turn. I apologize. I stood up and bowed. Oh, my god, what? Master Friedrich apologized. What in the world has happened to? I could hear the butlers and maids making noise from right above my head. I lifted my head and opened my mouth, just as I had expected. I think everyone was annoyed by my violent behavior up until just now. I am truly sorry I changed my mind. I know it's not easy to believe, but I'm going to show it with my behavior from today. Please, I'm asking for your help from now on. Thank you. Saying this, I bowed my head once again. Then, this time, silence took over the room. Did I miss it? Question mark? Perhaps the turn of events was too sudden. I slowly raised my head. But the maids were shedding tears, and some of the butlers were even sobbing. Hey, what's this? Oh, Master Friedrich, you have become so magnificent. I am glad I believed in you and served you. I don't know what it was, but everyone seemed to be trembling with joy and shedding tears. Well, you know, what the heck, yeah. It seems that Friedrich's reputation was so bad that just thanking and apologizing for what he had said and done so far was enough to make an impression that his reputation would go up. It's a common rule that a villainous aristocrat earns everyone's favor by apologizing for his past behavior, but I didn't expect it to be as much as it was. Well, let's just call it convenient. TN, that's it for today. I will deliver more tomorrow. Thanks for reading, and for note, I am not author of that series. 11. Chapter 3. Later, after I had enjoyed a meal that I had never tasted in my previous life, I returned to my room after having dispelled the crying cooks who wanted to shake my hand. Now then, I will let Master Friedrich choose his personal maid. I understand that, but how will I choose? I'll show you the candidates now, and you choose one, Master Friedrich. What, all of them are there? You prepared well with that, didn't you? Yes, so what is it? Fearful, a high-ranking aristocrat. Even the young lady of a noble family doesn't have much time to relax. And if I can only choose one of them, that means the girl I don't pick will be taken back to her hometown, right? That's a big responsibility. Well then, go ahead. The maid gives the signal, and 5 beautiful-looking ladies enter. All of them were dressed in maid's dresses and had an elegant appearance. However, none of them made eye contact with me. This is it. It seems that my bad personality is known all over the country. What in the world did Friedrich do to make people hate him so much? But I'm glued to one lady. She was the only one who was looking right at me. Not only that, but she looked as if she had seen me before. Ah. I remembered. In the Apostles of Asia, the Demon King, encouraged by Droas, wages war on the human race in the mid-game, and the protagonists visit a town that has become the front line of the conflict. The town is a demon tribe town, and by the time the protagonists arrive, it is already in ruins, but there is only one remaining survivor. That is the girl in front of me. There is no scene in the story in which she reveals her name. She just tells the protagonist that she wants him to defeat the Demon King on her behalf at the time of her death, and gives him a piece of equipment called the Ring of Salvation that recovers 20% of his HP per turn. Then, she dies on the spot. She is somewhat younger than I remember her, but there is no doubt about it. I have played the Apostles of Asia more than 10 times. There is no way I could have made a mistake. It's nice to meet you. My name is... The young lady standing on the other line starts to introduce herself, but I don't have time to listen to her. I was riveted to her, who is still strongly etched in my memory. If things continue as they are, she will probably die in the near future. Sure, as a result of the creation of the unusual person that is me, a future that is different from the original game may be waiting for her. But if I mess up, she will die in a few years, just like in the game storyline. I have to admit that the Ring of Salvation she gave was a crazy useful thing, and I felt sorry for her every time I saw her die with a sad look on her face, even though she was a game character. Poor girl, caught up in a war and dying. It was surprising that she was an aristocrat, but she is always seen covered in wounds. That may be a depiction of the tragedy of war, but such an end, too pitiful. So, there's only one thing I can do here. I've decided. Decided? I cut off the ladies' self-introductions, and when I said that, they all looked dumbfounded. However, I declared without caring about them. You are my personal maid. Her eyes met mine, and she looked somewhat pleased with those words. It's a strange thing, isn't it? I, the villainous aristocrat, had asked her to be his maid. Thank you for choosing me as your personal maid. A few minutes later, I was alone in the courtyard of the estate with an unnamed girl who had become my personal maid. The girl is probably older than Friedrich is right now, probably about the age of JK. What's your name? Yes, my name is Hokate von Herlia. Hokate bowed reverently. She made her movements with the refinement of a noblewoman. Her height is a little over 170. She has pitch black hair tied in a ponytail at the back of her scalp. Her eyes are yellow. The long bangs give the impression of modesty, but they are a gem in the rough that will shine if one polishes them. However, her eyes were cloudy, giving her an air of being a lost cause. When I observed Hokate closely, she looked worried and shook her eyes. Ah, that's right, I am a villainous aristocrat. Being alone with someone who was rumored to be such a violent person must have made her nervous. Oh no, I had to think of something clever to talk about. Why did Master Friedrich choose me as his personal maid? Huh. But surprisingly, Hokate spoke to me. Why did I choose you, Hokate? Close bracket. It's obvious. I didn't even know her name until a few moments ago, but I had seen her die many times. She is discovered in a collapsed building in a very tragic state, missing her right arm, bleeding from the head, and with burn marks so severe that there is no skin that is safe under her ripped clothes. Still, with her last bit of strength, she tells the hero, I want you to avenge the Demon King who has created this hell. And she gives him the Ring of Salvation, one of the strongest tools in the arsenal. Since there is no scenario in which she can be saved, I, who have been playing the Apostles of Arenacia for several weeks, took care of her the same number of times. If there is a route where she might be saved, I would jump into it without hesitation. That's why I decided to choose Hokate. I've been thinking about it for a while. Exclamation point. Is a bit different yet again, isn't it? Well, not really different. I always thought it would be nice if there was a route where she could be saved. I've taken the Ring of Salvation so many times, and the way she died is as sad as it is beautiful. I look at Hokate again. She is looking at me with a somewhat curious or surprised expression on her face, but thanks to the fact that I have now made her my personal maid, she will be able to escape such a tragic fate. Finally, I saved you. What? Well, I thought it was a nonsense to be reborn as a villainous aristocrat, but if I can save a life that couldn't be saved, there is still a good bit of margin to be glad I was reborn. Just a little bit. Question mark? Question mark? Feeling a little sentimental, I notice that Hokate is staring at me like a pigeon that has been hit by a pea shooter. Her mouth was moving like a goldfish seeking food. What's wrong? I mean, maybe I was just saying it out loud? Yes. Oh my god, I am so embarrassed. Exclamation point. That's right. I'd be so freaked out if I met a guy for the first time and he was full of bad rumors and said to me, you finally saved. Forget it, that wasn't, you know. I can feel my face turning red. Oh no, I'm so embarrassed, damn. No, thank you for those words. Thank you? But the reply I got was a word of thanks. Why thanks? I may have saved Hokate from certain death, but that should have been beyond her knowledge. It is of no surprise that no, it would be foolish of me to tell you. But Hokate did not answer my question, and for some reason she made a face as if she alone was convinced. Master Friedrich. Hey, what is it? Once again, Hokate stared straight at me. Her face was serious and oozed a kind of respectful emotion. Why? I am Hokate von Herlia, I will serve you with all my sincerity. Saying this, Hokate struck a squire's pose with one knee on the ground. I appreciate that statement itself, but why is that suddenly happening? Exclamation point. Hokate's eyes, which were clouded earlier, are sparkling and she looks up at me from below like a large dog staring at its beloved master. Not knowing which of my words or actions triggered her to behave in such a way, I screamed inside. 6. Chapter 4. We were still in the courtyard after Hokate, who had become my personal maid, gave me a strange allegiance. Really, a strange one. Can Hokate use magic? That was the main question. I don't know when I will enter the Magic Academy of Cadnic, where the main story of the game takes place, but I want to do everything I can while I have the chance. Yes, I can use it. Apparently, it was a bingo. Well, that's a good thing. Can you teach me magic? The turning point for Friedrich as a person is to lose to the protagonist in the graduation exam. To avoid that, I must make an effort from now on. Yes, that's fine, of course, but... Kate, however, looked a little confused. Is there a problem? No, that's not that I meant, but I have heard that Master Friedrich hates magic. Ah. Speaking of which, Friedrich in the original game skipped a lot of magic classes even though he was a student at the Cadnic Academy of Magic. When fighting in the graduation exam, he doesn't use any magic at all and fights with only physical skills. That doesn't mean he doesn't fight hard, and that guy's physical attacks are so hurtful, but, well, it doesn't have to be that way. Magic is more useful. I mean, I want to use magic. I'm sure I used to hate magic, but I can't say that I do now. Friedrich in the original game taught me that you can't beat the protagonist without using magic. I must be careful not to follow in his steps. I understand. In that case, I am Kate. I would be honored to teach you magic. Oh, please. First of all, as a basic principle, magic is divided into 7 attributes. Yes, you knew that very well. Well, it's the same as the Apostles of Arianathea. Do you know how many times I've completed it? And further, each spell is divided into 5 ranks: the lowest, lower, middle, high, and highest. HMIC. I know that, too. That's great. Is like that. It's a little embarrassing to be praised with a serious face for game knowledge. What magic can Kate use? I'm a lowly wind magician and a healer. Some people say my reactions are bland, but I can't help it. Because by the end of the game, basically every character can use advanced magic, and some can even use the highest level of magic. In general, it is said that a magician can use magic up to intermediate level. Oh, yes? I just can't help but make a silly sound. The following is a list of the most common types of magic, because that can't be true in the game. Everyone could use magic up to the higher level, you know? It is said that the highest level of magic is the one that a magician can finally master after spending all of his life, but that's only if you focus on one type of magic. Most ordinary wizards use magic with multiple attributes, so most of them can only use magic up to the middle level. Oh, wow. So, does that mean that the main character's party in the main game were all geniuses? Well, that's right, otherwise, I wouldn't be able to have a main character group. But I hear that Master Dross is able to manipulate advanced magic of 2 elements. He is a great man. I didn't know Dross was that strong. I'm glad I didn't start out with a fight strategy. Well then, let me show you some of my magic for you to see. Ah. I can't help but get a little excited at those words. Because you know what? I'm going to see magic in real life, right? I'd be lying if I said I didn't have regrets about this. Let's get started. Saying this, Kate closed her eyes and crossed her arms in front of her chest as if concentrating. With your mighty power, grant me the power to cut through those who stand in my way, Windblade. A moment later, a windblade-like thing appeared where nothing had been before, and it hit the wood at the edge of the courtyard at great speed. With a span like a Kamatatachi, it sliced it in 2 and disappeared. Whoa, awesome. If I could look at it objectively now, my eyes would have been shining like the heroes of a boys manga. Okay, how can I use that? Teach me. Oh, calm down, Master Friedrich. Oh, I'm sorry. I settled back into the chair I had been getting up from before I knew it. Well, you see, magic needs chanting. Chanting. It's the same thing in the Apostle of Arianathea. In the Apostles of Arianasia. Magic is the most efficient means of killing the enemy, but it requires chanting, which is shown in the game in the form of 1 turn spent. The damage is far beyond that of a mere physical attack, as 1 turn of chanting is enough time to do absolutely nothing. And you can't just chant. It is important to focus your mind and correctly shape the body's magic into a spell. It is not enough to just string words together. In Apostles of Arianathea, If the user takes more than a certain amount of damage during the chanting will stop. This was a specification that I had found annoying while playing the game, but it seemed reasonable when I thought about it. Well, then, let's give it a try. Yes, please do your best, Master Friedrich. I followed Kate's lead, closed my eyes, and concentrated. I gripped my right hand at the wrist with my left hand and thrust my right hand forward. What can I say, isn't this the kind of pose that comes to mind when you think of magic? Oh, founder of magic, I mutter, remembering Kate's chant. Then I felt a strange feeling of something inside my body stirring. Could this be the magic power? With its mighty power, give me the power to cut through my opponent, Windblade. As I finished chanting, I felt the magic power that had been making so much noise gather in my right hand, and like Kate's earlier, it took shape in the form of a Windblade. Immediately after that, it was released with blinding speed, cutting a piece of wood in a corner of the yard in half. Oh, I could use magic too, Kate. Yes, you have done it, Master Friedrich. I never expected you to succeed with magic on your first try, Master Friedrich. Well, I've always been a fast learner, you know? It's only natural for me to be this good. Well, that. While I was enjoying myself for being able to use magic, I suddenly felt dizzy. What is this? Are you alright, Master Friedrich? I think this may not be alright. My vision became dimmer and I feel kind of sleepy. I involuntarily kneel on the ground. What is going on? This is pretty bad. I've heard that people lose consciousness when they run out of magic power. I know that, too. It happens a lot, doesn't it? But wait, I only used magic once, didn't I? Friedrich, you didn't have that much magic power? Windblade consumes 4 MP. Only a quarter of the level 1 protagonist's MP? Master Friedrich, be careful. Gradually, Kate's voice becomes less and less clear. I can't resist my eyes from closing. Master Friedrich, you're too much of a brain-dead man. I completely lost my consciousness. 5. Chapter 5. My head is dizzy. I woke up shortly after I had passed out. But my head is still heavy and my vision is still somewhat blurry. How long was it since then? Is Kate there? I was about to call Kate, who might be nearby, when I realized what had happened to me. Where am I? I was not in the courtyard where I was supposed to be, nor in my room, but in a mystery pitch black place. Is this a dream? It was pitch black as far as the eye could see, and I wasn't sure if I was standing or floating. Does that mean I'm not dreaming? I pinched my face to check it out, and sure enough, I felt pain. What does that mean? I'm sure that I used magic, ran out of magic power, and passed out just like that. I don't know. I looked around once more. It's still pitch black all over, and I don't know exactly what's there. However, I felt a sense of deja vu. The Goddess Room? It is a place that appears in the Apostles of Asia. However, it is a place that the protagonist and his comrades visit when they receive an oracle from the goddess in a dream, and in short, it is a place that can only be visited during an event. But it's clearly not the same place. The Goddess Room in the game, on the other hand, was pure white all over, contrary to this place, and I could sense a majestic atmosphere. I rather wonder why I thought this space was similar to the Goddess Room. There's nothing to be done about it. It's been a long time since I've been in this mysterious place, and nothing's happening. Oh, founder of magic, with your mighty power, let me make my own way in the world with your mighty power. Give me the power to slice through others, the Windblade. I recited again the magic that Kate had shown me earlier. Then, a Windblade appeared from the tip of my outstretched right hand and disappeared into the pitch black. It seems that magic can be used even in this place. However, this time I did not faint from running out of magic power. It is hard to believe that the amount of magic power has increased in the current time. But this is not a dream. I don't know, seriously, what is this place? The founder of magic, with your mighty power, give me the power to slice through others, Windblade. Since I had too much free time, I decided to practice magic repetitions for the time being. After all, it's repetition that is important. It's one of the few lessons I learned as a kid. The founder of magic. Oh, you're up to something interesting. Whoa. I was about to cast my magic spell for the 100th time when I was suddenly approached by a voice. The voice was low, but it was probably a female voice. I turned my head vigorously in the direction of the voice. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to scare you. There was a lady there. A demon lady who, like me, had a horn like a demon sprouting from her temple. She had black hair and crimson eyes. The facial features were so well defined and beautiful that I might have stared at her for a while if I hadn't spotted her in a place like this. Tell me your name. The mysterious lady was sitting on a luxurious throne-like chair that had appeared before I knew it and said in a pompous tone. Who? I am Friedrich Regulus Mode. I was so overwhelmed by the sense of intimidation that I answered truthfully. Who is this woman? I've never seen her before in the Apostles of Erenacia. I see. Question mark? But after hearing my name, the woman did not ask me anything more and fell silent. Unable to bear the silence, my mouth opened on its own. What is your name? Hummo, I see it is polite to tell one another your name, right? I haven't talked to a living being in a while, so I'd forgotten. You haven't been in a while? My name is Kika. Kika-san. Yes. After saying this, the mysterious woman, Kika, fell silent again. What self-introduction over? Who are you? Oh, I'm sorry, I do not remember anything but my name now. Memories? I know that somebody has sealed me up, but I don't remember anything more than that. Memory loss. What is this place? Well, you know I've been here a long time, and I have no idea what this place is. You mentioned that earlier. Just how long have you been here? I stopped counting after 1,000 years. Exclamation point. So this female named Kika has been trapped in this place of emptiness with her memories sealed for more than 1,000 years. What a pitiful thing that is. How did that happen? Apostrophe. Well, you know I do not know, because my memory is sealed, but more than that. The back of the throne was deeply attached to the throne, and Kika removed it, and then bent down. The look in her eyes seems to be full of interest and admiration for me. You just did something interesting. Interesting? I thought for a moment I heard a mumble and then a wind blade appeared. It looked like witchcraft, but what was it? That, of course, is magic. Magic, what is it? Is it different from witchcraft? Well, let's see, is there a difference between witchcraft and magic? At least, what you just did is close to witchcraft, but it's not it. Upon closer look, the word magic does not appear in the Apostles of Erenacia, although the word witchcraft does appear in it. Everyone thoroughly referred to it as witchcraft, and the official website and the guidebooks also described it as magic. The difference between witchcraft and magic is this. Witchcraft is something you trigger by chanting. I tried to tell her a simplified form of what I had just learned from her Kate. Then Kika put a hand on her chin with a reluctant look on her face. Chanting, show me the chant again. O founder of magic, with your mighty power, grant me the power to slice through those who stand in my way. Windblade. The windblade appeared and flew away, just as it did before. Interesting. Kika's eyes narrowed. But my question was still unanswered. By the way, can you use magic? Yes, I can, like this. Kika waved her right hand in the air as if it were a natural movement. Then, a blade of wind appeared there. How's? I opened my mouth with a sigh. Cause, you know, right? The present Kika didn't even chant at all, just waved her arm in a light movement. The reason is that the same thing can be done with windblade. Magic is the free and easy way to create a new form of magic. Free. Magic can become anything. It can be fire, water, wind, lightning, earth, plant, living beings, and so on. Wait. Earth plants? In other fantasy stories, there would be earth spells that send clumps of earth flying, or grass spells that make plants grow. However, none of these are present in the Apostles of Erenacia. What is this? What in the world is going on? Isn't this the world of the Apostles of Erenacia? Can I ask you something next? To be honest, I don't have time to answer Kika's question right now, but her eyes were sparkling like a curious little girl's, so I silently encouraged her to continue. In the chanting you mention the words founder of magic. Who is this? If you ask me, then surely. I am sure that the founder of magic means the creator of magic, right? But I don't know of any such being, at least. There was none in the Messenger of Erinacia. You don't know? The magic you speak of, perhaps it is a kind of magic that uses chanting to help humans successfully pull off magic? Question mark? That is to say, by chanting, thy magic power moves of its own volition and is transformed into the wind blade I mentioned earlier. If you put it that way, it could certainly be true. When I chant, I get the sensation that the magic inside me starts to move on its own. In other words, does that mean that chanting in magic helps to easily activate magic? What about 9x5 and instead of adding 9 5 times each time, I remember the word kugoshi jugo, so it's easy to figure out the 99, like. Instead of manipulating the magic power by yourself one by one, if I just say the word chant, the magic power will move on its own according to the chant? HMIC, I wonder about. You understand, what is? I did not just say that, did I? Don't underestimate me, it's easy to see into other people's minds. Oh, that's another one of your tricks? Yes, I've been told I'm a genius at witchcraft. Kika laughed like an innocent little girl who's just had a successful prank played on her. I thought she was arrogant, but I didn't know she had that side of her. Isn't she too much greedy? So that's how it is. In other words, the founder of magic or whatever, created something called magic so that those who can't use witchcraft well can do something close to it by chanting. Before I could swallow the rather risky situation that the person I was facing could read people's thoughts, I changed the subject. So there aren't many people who can use witchcraft? Yes, there are only a handful of people who can use it. There were even some who were oppressed just for NPT being able to use witchcraft. The words were also different from those used in The Apostle of Erinacia. In the story, it is clearly stated that only 2 out of 3 people can use witchcraft. The motive is unknown, but if the founder of magic created magic because he wanted to let those who could not use magic like objects, as Kika says, then it seems to make sense. It's interesting, isn't it? I was bored for a long time, but I didn't know that magic existed in this world. I thank you, Friedrich Regulus Mode. Ha. It's kind of strange to be thanked for just telling people what you know. But magic and witchcraft? This was a concept that was not in The Apostles of Erinacia. Oh, could this be a special ability that is unique to me, a cheat skill? Kika-san, I wonder if I can use witchcraft. Would be impossible. I'm still a genius at witchcraft. I can tell who can do magic by just one look. Gah. What a pity. Fos villainous aristocrat. For you after all, see, I only rise through hard work like actual villainous aristocrat. Then, when I thought there was no point in staying here any longer. Are you interested in creating your own magic? What? 4. Chapter 6. Create magic? Kika nodded confidently at the tone in my voice. I see with your magic, it is the power of the chanting that is the main reason for the magic to be cast. That may be true, but sure, it requires concentration, but magic takes form simply by chanting. It's surprisingly easy because when you chant, the magic moves on its own and becomes magic. You could say that every word of the chanting makes the magic. It would be the same as the example of 99 I mentioned earlier. What's 9 times 5? And instead of going to the trouble of going out of your way to add 9 5 times, you can immediately give the answer because you have memorized a kugoshi jugo. I don't know how to move the magic power to activate the wind blade. But if I say the chant, the magic power will move on its own and become the wind blade. Alright, what's important for magic is imagination. Imagination? That's right, the magic power hidden in you will be revealed to the world in whatever form it will take. For example, let's say you create a ball of flame like this. Kika suddenly created a ball of flame in the palm of her right hand by using witchcraft. I am used to it since it is the second time, but I am a little surprised when she does that without any prior action. However, this is not a simple matter of taking things as they come. It is a process of imagining in your head that your magic power will become a ball of flame and creating it. This is witchcraft. I see. The magic is triggered by chanting. Witchcraft is triggered when you imagine what you want your magical power to become. Well, it's not that simple. First of all, Those who cannot use witchcraft cannot even control their own magic power. That's why the art of witchcraft is so common in this world. According to Kika's story, there were very few people who could use witchcraft. Besides, since magic is activated by chanting, there is not much need to control one's own magical power. I see Kika's story makes sense. I've only seen magic in my own stuff, and yet I have this power of reasoning or imagination. Who the hell is Kika? There, witchcraft. Huh. For example. After saying that, Kika fell silent for a while as if she was thinking about it. I felt bad for interrupting her somehow, so I kept my mouth shut too. Comma. Is the power to create the world. Thou art the flame that will remake the world, appear before me and burn all my enemies. What? Kika, who had been silent, suddenly uttered words that could only have been uttered by a person with a midlife crisis. What's wrong? Repeat. Repeat that thing you just did. I've already gotten over the chenille key sickness, you know. What are you ashamed of? Wasn't thy magic chanting similar? Well, sure. Like the founder of magic, or with power, or the one who is. Is it too late to hesitate at the word shameful? I understand, I'll do it. Don't just say this, concentrate on it. Imagine that the magic inside you becomes a huge flame, as if you were telling the magical power that lies dormant inside you. I close my eyes and focus, thinking that I should just follow the directions here. The magic power within me. I sharpen my nerve endings to the strange sensation that rumbles out with each chant. It's witchcraft. The moment I muttered that, I felt a strange sensation as if something jumped up inside me. It was probably the movement of magic power, but it was different from what I had felt earlier. It's something I can't describe. The difference isn't words, but it's like a voluntary like that. It's good I didn't quite recall your body being so gifted, but maybe there's a potential within you. Kika's words did not reach my brain, as I was too busy controlling the magic power that was violently moving through my body as if it were jumping around. For now, I must concentrate on the chanting that Kika said. Thou art the flame that will remake the world, appear before me and burn all my enemies. My body is hot. The moment I thought that, all the heat source of my body was concentrated on my right hand, which was thrust out. The right hand started wiggling on its own and looked as if it was desperately trying to stop something that was about to go wild. The magic needs to be tightened and the chanting, yes, it does. Kika-san, this is quite painful. If it had been just a few minutes ago, the witchcraft would have been activated by now, but I don't know what it is, but it's not working. My right hand is hot, it's shaking, it's starting to hurt somehow. I can't keep this up. Something I shouldn't let out is coming out. If this were a crowded train, I'd have said my last words by now. Wait, right now trying to think of an appropriate name for its spell. What's the name? Yes, that's right. How about the flame of creation Ragnarok? Are you sure about that? You didn't put strange kanji characters with phonetic alphabets. The miss won't get mad at me. I looked into your head and picked one of the words that you have put together as cool fancy words. Is that wrong? No, it's more like shameful and black history. No, I can't hold it in anymore. Does that stop my right hand from making? Yeah, probably. Damn, I have no choice but to say it. I just need to say it. The flame of Genesis Ragnarok. The magic power that had gathered in my right hand gradually formed a shape as I shouted that with a bright red face. Imagine Ragnarok? I don't know the word Ragnarok. I don't know the word Ragnarok, but it has something to do with fire, doesn't it? That's why I chose that word. Flames. I remember that the chanting was something like, my magical power, become some kind of great flame. Ragnarok? What was it? Did it mean something like the mythical twilight day? As I recall, some guy with a name like Sir burned up the world. Yeah, that kind of thing? Is that why there was a word about creating the world all over again or something like that? Oh, wait, what? Am I about to activate that world burning Ragnarok right now? I mean, it's like the tip of my right hand is hot. What the heck is that? When I looked at it, I saw a huge ball of flame floating on the tip of my right hand. I can't tell you how big it is, but it's as big as a 2-story building. What is this? Am I forming a sun or something? Oh, it looks like my guess was right. Kika mutters calmly, nonchalantly, even though I'm holding a huge ball of flame in the air. Explain it to me. I've already explained it to you. I told you that imagination is the key to witchcraft, didn't I? No, you've got to do something about this flame first. It's hot, it's so hot I can't focus on anything. Just like with magic, you can't just send it off somewhere else. What do you mean? I looked back and forth from the ball of flame to the squeaker and thrust my right hand forward with a snap. Then, the huge, oversized ball of flame vanished at a fast speed. Oh. And now for the rest of the discussion. Kika continued as if nothing had happened. To be honest, I have a strong feeling that where did that ball of flame go, but I am more interested in the ball of flame itself, so I listened to Kika's words. What matters in witchcraft is concentration, but you don't have the power to control your magical powers so precisely as to be able to use witchcraft. Therefore, you have borrowed power from the magic chanting and other such tricks. Borrowing power. Therefore, I tried to include words in the chanting that would promote the imagination to activate the magic, and it seems to have worked. When I saw your chanting, I thought that chanting has the power to activate magic and to bring out the magician's imagination. Therefore, I tried to put words in the chanting that promote the imagination to activate the spell, and it seems to have worked. I don't understand. But this proves it. I can create my own spell. 4. Chapter 7. I wake up. The first thing I saw in my vision was the sky dyed in a deep red. Then, I felt a soft touch on the back of my head. What the hell happened to me? Are you awake? Immediately after that, Hakate's worried look came into view. I was asleep on Hakate's lap. My memory is a little hazy. Why am I having the situation like a hero, having my head on Hakate's lap? No, you was practicing magic during the magic lesson. Master Friedrich ran out of magic power and fainted. Hakate gave an explanation in a matter-of-fact manner. Oh, that's right. As I recall, I asked her to teach me magic, and after I cast Windblade, I fainted. The magic break would make you faint for a while, but there was no particular harm beyond that, so I had to leave you here to rest. I was very much distressed. Are you alright? You were having a nightmare? Double quote. Yes, it seems that something magical is. Exclamation point. I remember now. As I recall, right after I fainted, I wandered into a mysterious place and met a mysterious lady who called herself Kika. She taught me about witchcraft there. Oh, I was having some kind of dream. A dream? Yes, does the name Kika ring a bell with you, Hakate? I remember the woman I met in that mysterious place. She said she had lost her memory, but there might be someone who knew her. I'm sorry, I have never heard of this name. I cannot be of any help to you, Master Friedrich, this Hakate, and I am filled with a feeling of shame. No, you don't have to take it so seriously. I'm just talking about my dream. I told her, who had tears in the corner of her eyes, but I couldn't believe it was a dream. I clearly remember the conversations I had with Kika, and above all, the memory of the flame's heat is making me believe that it was real. How about using the flame of creation Ragnarok? I was suddenly driven by such a desire. If I, a villainous aristocrat who hates magic, were to suddenly pull off such an amazing trick, I wondered what the people around me would think of me. Perhaps my bad reputation would be turned around and I would be hailed as a child prodigy who could use incredible magic. However, I quietly put away my desire to do the me-to-e thing. First of all, I don't know what would happen if I let out such a big damn flame here. Maybe I would burn Hakate or worse. That's no good. Only in the original game will Hakate suffer burns. Besides, my MP is low as fuck, apparently. Just using Windblade, which consumed 4 MP in the original game, would cause me to faint. The reason I didn't pass out after using Genesis Flame Ragnarok was probably because that space was a special place like a fantasy. If I used it again here, I would have fainted. Another maid has just come to tell that dinner is ready and that I should bring you back when you wake up. I see, I'll be on my way then. I get up from Hakate's lap with a feeling of being dragged back. It was a itchy but happy feeling in my chest to be kneeled by a girl. I'll ask her to do it again next time. NNNR. As I was heading to the cafeteria with Hakate, I heard a strange voice that sounded like someone was being crushed by something. Hey, what's going on? Oh, Mr. Friedrich, no, this is. The voice belonged to a young maid. As soon as she made eye contact with me, her voice shook and she quickly looked away. Apparently, my favorability is really low. Well, it's Friedrich and his father after all. Are you in trouble? Still, I will not leave my servant so easily. After all, the reputation of a villainous aristocrat will only be a drag on my life from now on. At least let the maids have the reputation of being ordinary people. Well, the other day I ordered some manure for the flowers in the courtyard, but it turned out to be more than I thought it would be. There was a keg as tall as she was, and it was placed by her side. Perhaps there is a lot of manure in there. I would love to help her, but I'm a young boy now, of course, I wouldn't be able to lift it. And I don't think that Hokate has the muscle strength to do so. Hokate, is there any magic spells that would strengthen my physical abilities? I asked Hokate, my magic teacher in this world. But she shook her head with an apologetic expression. No, there is no such spell. Right. Well, I knew. The RPG called the Apostles of Erenasia has no buffs or debuffs, which is rare in modern games. In other words, it is not possible to raise the offensive power of the party or lower the defensive power of the enemy. But witchcraft can be created. I remember what Kika said. According to her, witchcraft can be created. She told me that witchcraft is the art of using chanting to activate something similar to witchcraft for those who are not able to use it. And in fact, she did create spell in that short time and showed it. Then there was no reason why I couldn't do it. The witchcraft requires imagination, so it's better to incorporate words that make the imagination more concrete in the chanting. Master Friedrich, are you alright? Hokate looks at me with a worried face, perhaps thinking I'm acting suspiciously as I start mumbling in a whisper. But I couldn't afford to worry about that right now. This could be the invention of the century. Okay, here it is, give me your hand, please. What? I place my hand on the young maid's hand. Then I closed my eyes to focus. It's witchcraft. I start chanting. I felt that strange sensation of the magic in my body being revitalized. Thou shalt help her and give her powerful strength to shatter everything, strength up. I hope it's fine if the chanting is a bit sloppy, I improvised it, after all. And what result of spell? What, my body is kind of warm. The maid said with an anxious look on her face. Is this a success? Well then, hold that keg again. What if it was impossible earlier? There's no way I can do it now. It's alright, just try it. Ugh, we maids are servants anyway, right? It's easy, oh, I can hold that. The maid was able to lift the keg, which she had not been able to move a single millimeter just a moment ago, using both hands in a slight movement. Success? Although I appear to be calm on the outside, inside I was overjoyed. I had created spell. I imagined the kind of spell in most video games that boosts the offensive power of a companion. I created the chant based on the explanation that it generally increases a person's muscle power, and it seems to have succeeded. What a surprise. I never thought I would not only use magic, but create spells. Master Friedrich, you are amazing, Master Friedrich. You are amazing, thank you. The young maid, as if she had forgotten the disgust-filled stares she had just received, expressed her thanks with sparkling eyes and went away with the cask in her arms. I hope this will improve my reputation a little. HMPH, Master Friedrich, what kind of magic was that? The chanting is different from other spells, and I've never heard of a spell that improves someone else's power. However, in contrast to the maid who had thanked me fluently and left, Hokate was looking at me with an unbelievable expression on her face. Hokate knows a lot about magic, she knows that this is impossible. But explaining everything is hard. I'm not sure if she would understand who a Kika is, and it's a mystery if she would understand the concept of witchcraft. I've been working on a little bit of research on magic. If you don't mind, I'd like you to keep me company on some stuff, okay? I'll just say that and fake it. Well, it's not all lies, it's true that I'm in the middle of a research study. I was wondering if this excuse was too bitter, and Hokate looked stunned for a moment, then looked at me with a respectful gaze. It seems to be all right. I never thought that Master Friedrich had such a talent. I am impressed. I would be happy to serve as Master Friedrich's experiment partner or whatever. Oh, well, I'll be glad to work with you. As usual, I wonder what this mysterious like ability coming from Hokate is all about. Well, never mind. Now I should put my thoughts on the creation of this spell. If I master this, I might be able to beat the protagonist that I will be fighting in the graduation exam. Besides, I might even be able to reverse my reputation of being a villainous aristocrat while still a child. My dreams are growing. Oh no, creating magic is too much fun. I headed to the cafeteria, excited to see what kind of spells I could create next. 3. Chapter 8. My name is Hokate von Heralia. I am a daughter of a noble family from the territory of Heralia, which is located in the northeast of the Demon Kingdom of Galicia, ruled by the Demon King. Even though I am a noble, I did not lead a rich life. In fact, it could be said that my life has been more unfortunate than that of a commoner. The territory of Heralia is not a rich place. In this land, where it is cold all year round, few plants grow, and even the Baron's table is quite bare. My father rules such a land. The only value he sees in me, his daughter, is that I am a bride for a nobleman who will support him. He had no love for my sisters or me, and abuse was commonplace. He would only leave scars on the inside of our clothes so that the maids and other members of the household would not know about it. The fact that no male heir was ever born gave further fuel to this. When my sisters married off one after another to other nobles and I was left alone in the house, my father's violence focused on me, sometimes with a whip, sometimes with his fists, and one day he gave me burns that would remain on my body for the rest of my life. Then one day, I heard a rumor that the Asmodee Marquis, a family with a certain status in the Demon Kingdom, was hiring a maid for a legitimate son. It was there that I first asked my father for a favor. It was the first time for me to tell my father my opinion. My father would beat me if he got in a bad mood even a little. I told him I was afraid that he might hit me with his fist because of my opinion, but he surprisingly said it was okay. I was happy now. I could finally get away from my father. I could finally go after my sisters, who had not sent me any news after their marriage. After that, I think my father told me that the Marquis Asmodee had money, so I had to seduce his son, but I didn't care about that. Thus, I was able to escape from that hellish family of mine. However, the things did not proceed so easily. To my surprise, there were several other noble daughters who wanted to become the personal maid of the Marquis Asmodee. Friedrich Regel Asmodee, the heir to the Asmodee Marquis. Bad rumors about him had reached my faraway domain. First of all, he was a bad child who put his power as an aristocrat on the line. There were rumors that he often lashed out at butlers, maids, and others who were poorly placed, and that he even used violence against them. Secondly, he was lazy. There is an indissoluble relationship between aristocrats and magicians. This is because the nobility has a history of using magic to protect their territories from invasion by other countries and monsters. However, Friedrich is not only not good at magic, he is not interested in even trying. Such a man could be considered a failure as a nobleman. Nevertheless, when I went to the Marquis Asmodee's mansion, I found that there were many noble daughters who were candidates to be his personal maid. However, that question was soon answered. Not everyone I talked to was positive about this. The Marquis of Asmodee is a powerful and influential nobility familiar with a great deal of influence in the Demon Kingdom. It seems that there were 0 nobles who were looking at him and planning to offer their support to him. I was disappointed when I saw them. They had uniformly beautiful faces, clear beautiful skin, and neat manners typical of aristocrats. I, on the other hand, was a plain person with scars and burns from violence on my skin, only better at magic than others. I guess this means I'll have to go back to my father, soon. It was with this dark feeling that we were finally led into Friedrich's room. Sitting in the room was a boy a year younger than me. He had dark blue hair, red eyes, and a villainous face as rumored. But for some reason, I was not displeased with him. The air he wore was not dangerous like the rumors, but rather soft and gentle. As soon as I entered the room, my eyes met Friedrich's. He had a curious expression on his face, as if he was scrutinizing me from head to toe. His gaze, however, was not sticky with a lewd emotion, but rather, it seemed as if he was trying to confirm something. I was not sure if he was wondering why there was such a plain girl among the beautiful girls, but Friedrich suddenly opened his mouth. I have decided. My mouth dropped open at the suddenness of the announcement. It was the same for the other ladies, especially the one who was forced to stop introducing herself, whose face I could not bear to see. What did he decide? And why is Friedrich staring straight at me? These questions fizzled out in an instant. You are my personal maid. The rest of the story unfolded as you know, and after I signed the contract and sent a formal letter to my father, I officially became Friedrich's personal maid. Shortly after I became Friedrich's personal maid, I was left alone with him. After a brief introduction, a moment of silence fell between us. Why did Master Friedrich choose me as his personal maid? I found myself asking Friedrich that. It's strange, isn't it? All the others who had applied for the position were good looking and had a physique that men liked. In contrast, I had long bangs that covered my face and was taller than most of my peers. I am not the kind of woman that men like. I felt a little guilty toward Friedrich because of that. I thought Friedrich was one hell of a bad child. In addition, the reason I volunteered to be Friedrich's personal maid was to get away from my violent father, not because I admired him or for any other serious reason. To top it off, the inside of my clothes are covered with burns inflicted by my father. When it comes to being a full-time maid, there will be times when I have to deal with such things with my master. It is the maid's role to teach a noble air to a woman's body. However, my body was not really made for a man's excitement. If I asked my father what was wrong, he would tell me that I had been badly scolded as a child. At the time, I was unsure if I had done the right thing by pushing aside the other daughters and becoming Friedrich's personal maid. I had been curious about it for some time. Friedrich's answer, however, was completely unexpected. What did he mean by I have been curious about you for a long time? He and I had never met before, and I knew him because he was famous in a way, but it was hard to believe that Friedrich knew me, the daughter of a local aristocrat. No, wait. Perhaps Friedrich knew? Did Friedrich know that my father was an abusive man to his own daughter? But I immediately rejected that possibility. If Friedrich was not the man I had heard about, but a man who valued justice and order, who would not tolerate injustice, then it might be possible. But Friedrich is not that kind of person. He is a lazy, violent, bad child. That is who Friedrich is. I have seen the atmosphere he was wearing when I first met him, and the kind eyes that looked at me when I was nervous. Maybe Friedrich is not who the rumors say he is. Finally, you saved! The words were more than enough to make my mouth open wide. Save. No doubt Friedrich said so. My question and now the situation. It was obvious whom he had saved. Yes, it can't be anyone but me. In other words, yes, that's what I mean. Friedrich knew, after all. Friedrich knew that I had been abused by my father. And today, he took me under his protection under the pretext of making me his personal maid, and created a gap between me and my father. That's all I could think of. After all, rumors heard from others are not reliable. Because the man Friedrich Rigolasmode is such a wonderful person. I don't know how he came to know about my situation. But I do know why he saved me. Because Friedrich is a man of the justice. He cannot leave the downtrodden as it is. He is truly a man who should be on top of others. I had never been one to respect others. My father taught me nothing but pain, and my sisters stopped sending me even a single letter the moment they left home. I once read a story about a knight who literally risked his life to protect his mistress, but I couldn't relate to any of it. But I can tell you that I understand how that knight felt just now. He saved me. He saved me from the desperation in my life and gave me light, knowing that I would continue to live with my dad's brutality. Then, I will serve him. I will protect Friedrich, the man who gave me back the will to live, at the cost of my life. That is what I will do. I am Hokate von Herulia. I will serve you with all my sincerity. This was the first reason I had ever found to live. A few hours later, I learned that Herr Friedrich also had a formidable talent, but that is a story for another time. TN we reached the most recap chapter released by author. Thankful reading. Please rate us on Novel Update if you have time and put that series on your reading list till the next update then. One more note, I was asked by other TL group to remove my translations. I started translating that series and it does not go against new play as long as translators start from the beginning of the series. Well, most important thing, it's a poll willing you to read future chapter by my side, or should I delete my translations? What should I do? Remove, stay, translators button. Results are only viewable after voting. Cost vote. Oops. We ran into some problems. View results. What should I do? 3. Chapter 9. Next. It's been a month since I discovered that I could create original spells. I was creating spells every day. However, my magic power was quite low. At first, I could only cast 1 or 2 spells in a day. However, this world, like other fantasy stories, seems to be the same in that if you use your magic power to the limit and then faint, the amount of magic power will increase. I thought this might be a cheat knowledge that only I know, but according to Hecate, it is common knowledge that most people who use magic know. The increase in magic power is really very minor, so it is very rare for people to take advantage of it. However, there is no doubt that the increase will be substantial, even if it is slight. I was grateful for the increase in magic power for the coming days, so at the end of each day I would repeatedly use up all my magic power and go to bed or even faint as I went to bed. This allowed me to use magic at least 3 times a day without fainting. It may sound like I haven't increased my magical power much, but I guess progress is progress. Now, there is something I learned after I became able to create my original spells. Original witchcraft is too long, so can I rename it? Yes, let's call it unique magic, it's kind of cool. So, let's get back to the story. Inherent magic can go beyond the original category of magic in this world. For example, the magic attributes I have talked about a long time ago. The magic of this world is divided into the 7 elements of fire, ice, wind, lightning, holy, dark, and healing, but it is possible to create spells that does not belong to any of these 7. For example, a few days ago, I woke up in the middle of the night and had to pee. I wanted to go to the bathroom, but I had to walk a long way down the hallway to get there. However, the corridor was dark because equals it late in the night, and oil valuable item in that world. I couldn't bear to wake the servants this late at night. So, I tried chanting, witchcraft. Magic, thou shalt be a lamp to light my path, torch of light. A ball of light appeared at my fingertips, illuminating my surroundings. There was no such spell in the Apostles of Erenacia. To begin with, there was no spell in the game that had any use other than to attack the enemy. If one thinks about it, the spell I mentioned earlier is also a spell for attacking, except for healing. I was also able to create other kinds of spells that did not appear in the game, such as Sand Wall, which creates a wall of earth in front of the user's eyes, and Waterfall, which simply produces drinkable water. This is a good news. The fact that I could create spells that did not appear in the game means that I have more cards in my hand than the people of this world. In other words, it would be that much easier to fight the protagonist. I am steadily beginning to avoid the flag of death. Now, a month after I met Kika and became able to create her spells. I haven't seen Kika since then. I wish I could at least talk to her, because it must be lonely to be in that empty place all alone, but I can't. Well, I can't help, I'll look into that later. Back to the topic, my skills in magic seem to have progressed a lot in the past month. However, Cadnic Magic Academy is not a place to learn only about magic. There are also martial arts classes for general education. Martial arts is that thing where you swing a sword or grasp a spear. Not all of the characters in the Apostles of Erenacia are magicians. Some are good with swords, others with bows. What I am trying to say is that magic alone is not enough. I don't know what will happen to me in the future. After all, there is a final boss nearby. I should make every possible effort. I made up my mind to do so and visited the training ground adjacent to the Asmodee Marquise's mansion together with Hecate. I spot the person I'm looking for. Long light blue hair, pure white armor, sleek arms and legs, but a solid torso. I could tell even from behind because I am a heavy player of the Apostles of Eridacia. Saria. When I speak to her behind her, she turns around and looks back at me. Her eyes are long and slanted, and her nose is high. She is a beauty that everyone would look up to. Master Friedrich, is it? Salia Austin. She is from a family of knights who have served the Asmodee Marquis family for a long time, and she herself is a knight in the Asmodee Marquis family. In the original game, she gives up on the runaway from the Marquis Asmodee, Droyus, and temporarily joins the main character's party, although only as an NPC. Her abilities are overwhelming, and she is such an easy to understand supporting character that people want her to never leave the party. Allow me to operate the game. And I won't say anything lavish, so I want her to follow me to the last boss. It's rare for you to come here. Saria said in a cold voice. I guess they don't think very favorably of me after all. I have a favor to ask you. A favor? Yeah, I need you to teach me how to use a weapon. I had two reasons for asking Saria. First, as you can probably tell from her stats in the original game, she is a strong character and would make a good teacher. Second, Saria betrays Droyus at the end of the game. In other words, I took it as a given that she would most likely stay on my side in the future. Ha, Master Friedrich, ha. I'm not sure if she'll really stand by my side, since she frowns at the mere sight of my face. Well, let's be thankful that she's going to be Droyus' enemy. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. What change of heart is this, given that you fled before? But Saria cut in from an unexpected angle. Fled? It was already 5 years ago now. I was asked by Droyus to teach you, but after 3 days you fled and never even came near this place again. In other words, or rather Friedrich had learned to handle weapons from her before. But, well, Friedrich is lazy, so it is only natural that he immediately fled. That in itself is not my problem, but I guess it's the case for others. The only person I could count on was Saria. I bowed my head. I apologize for my earlier fleeing. I'm sorry, give me another chance. I pleaded with all sincerity. I wanted to do everything I could now. I heard a gasping sound above me. I will. Are you sure? I lifted my head vigorously. Saria's expression was more relaxed than before. She seemed to accept my apology. If I tell the truth, there's no need for me to apologize. Friedrich or some other bastard is really. Well then, let's start the training. My training is harsh, okay? I hope so. Thus I got a martial arts teacher who was very good for me. What a good beginning. That's what I thought at the time. I had no idea of the hell that awaited me. 3.